Chapter 79. Inside UXIN Media's office building conference room. Compared to the previous day, when the room was filled with people, the number of people present was obviously less than half of the previous day. Ling Han was not there yet, so the higher-ups of the various departments looked at each other. Did old Tang drink too much last night? Why isn't he at the company yet? Dong Lin isn't here either. Isn't that a waste of time? Shaolin, go and ask a few departments why their managers aren't here. There's no need to go. Her clear and cold voice was powerful and resonant. The noise in the meeting room returned to silence, and the discussions stopped abruptly. Ling Han, who was dressed in a black suit, had a cold aura about him as he walked to the conference table. Compared to the previous day's humble and polite manner, there was an inexplicable murderous aura around him. The beautiful secretary behind him was carrying a stack of documents. As soon as she entered the room, she began to distribute them to the managers of the various departments. No matter how one looked at her, she was a weak woman. However, even though she was a woman, she was Ling Han's personal secretary. When she distributed the documents, she looked calm and steady, and no one could find the slightest flaw in her expression. President Ling, I saw that the managers of the artist management department weren't here today, so I wanted to ask Shaolin to find out what was going on. This is the person who spoke was Zhao Dongqi, the former boss of UXIN Media before it was acquired. He was in his early 50s and was the executive director of the company. When Ling Han was not around, he was basically the acting president and managed the various affairs of UXIN Media. He had long been prepared to retire, and he was only staying here because of Ling Han's request. As you can see, the HR department has already processed the resignation procedures for the managers and their subordinates who were absent today. Since last night, they are no longer employees of UXIN Media. As soon as he said this, there was a lot of discussion in the conference room. Among the people who were absent today, there were 4 department managers, 6 deputy managers, and a few salespeople who were supposed to attend the meeting. They were supposed to be the key personnel of the departments. According to Ling Han, the company was equivalent to firing half of the company's senior management. President Ling, how can we do this? Old Tang and a few other department managers have to watch over the operations of the artist management department every day. If we fire all of them at once, something will go wrong. The company won't be able to operate normally. Manager Zhao, Ling Han interrupted him with a cold expression. With these people around, the company can't operate normally, right? Back then, you gave UXIN Media the right to choose the artists on the live streaming platform to cultivate. You were the one who personally promised me that. Why? Have you thought of an explanation for the incident of the host being caught for being involved in pornography? Zhao Dongqi's face stiffened. In yesterday's meeting, Ling Han didn't mention a single word about the anchor's involvement in pornography. After all, the pleasure group was rich and powerful. With a little bit of money, this news could be suppressed. In fact, when Zhao Dongqi first found out that Ling Han was going to inspect UXIN Media in person, he panicked and was so anxious that he couldn't sleep the whole night. Yesterday, he didn't mention this matter and finally felt relieved. But today, this old matter was brought up again. He really couldn't handle it. President Ling, regarding the matter of pornography, I will give you an explanation. But the content of the female anchor's broadcast was definitely not arranged by us. She is not the focus of the company at all. He broke out in a cold sweat. Although he was panicking, he had to consider the company's operations. So he simply braced himself and tried to persuade him. But you still have to be careful about the dismissal of the department manager. President Ling, this is not a child's play. A child's play? Ling Han curled the corners of his mouth and smiled coldly. He suddenly raised the volume of the document in his hand and slammed it on the table. Not the focus of the company? It's because the focus of the company has climbed into the bed of the department manager that these female anchors, who have no future, are forced to take risks. Manager Zhao, why don't you take a look for yourself? Zhao Dongqi was stunned. He lowered his head and looked at the unopened document. When he opened it, there was only confusion in his eyes. After flipping a few pages, his body swayed and he fell into the chair with an embarrassed expression. Yi Huanyan stood behind Ling Han with a pitiful look in her eyes. After all, Zhao Dongqi was old. Many things in the company were handled by the people around him. It was these so-called people he trusted who played tricks under his nose. The female anchor who was involved in pornography was not considered an internet celebrity. The number of fans could only be said to be above average. After the incident, Yi Huanyan handled this case. She was surprised to find that the female anchor involved in the incident was very good-looking. Compared to the face of all the internet celebrities, she was really a fresh dream. Her dancing and singing skills were all online. Although she often talked about pornography in the live broadcast, there had never been such an incident before. If she hadn't been taken away by the police during the live broadcast, she probably wouldn't have appeared at the pleasure conference. In the conference room, there were many people flipping through documents. Ling Han glanced at Yi Huanyan. She understood and took out the prepared recording pen to play it in the conference room. Anyway, after today's broadcast, I won't be in this line of work anymore. I can't make much money, and I have to look at people's eyes every day. It's convenient for those shameless old B** stars in the company. Why don't I give back to the otaku fans who raised me and gave me food? At least I have a clear conscience. This was the first time Yi Huanyan heard this recording, but it was the first time she heard someone talk about selling her body in such a dignified manner on the live broadcast platform. Her face was full of surprise. However, this female anchor said in the recording that she didn't make much money. This was true. The share of rewards between the company and the anchor was basically 30 to 70. The company took 70%, and the live broadcast platform management fee took 10%. Only 20% was left in the hands of the anchor. In addition, the company used the rewards for publicity, which meant that the internal staff's rewards were not included. Aside from that, the top 10 most popular anchors on the live broadcast platform earned about 100,000 yuan a month. Yusen Media had more than 1,000 online artists, but only 10 to 20% of them could be promoted to the top. Even the top anchors could only earn that much, not to mention those who were unknown and invisible. Company subsidies? There's such a thing? I've been in the company for almost a year. I've only heard that those old B** stars in the company who sleep with the surname Tang get subsidies, but I've never heard of any other sisters getting any subsidies. We all get our share of rewards, and it's only enough for our basic living expenses every month. What about the company's public live broadcast room? Although the voice was edited, Yi Huanyan still recognized Xiao Mu's voice. That was why Xiao Mu didn't come to Shanghai with them. At that time, they split up. We do have that, but we don't have the right to use it, so we can only set it up at home. The company's well-decorated live broadcast rooms are specially for them. The conference room was silent, and everyone lowered their heads to listen to the recording silently. They had been in the company for so long, so it was impossible for them not to know about these things. Most people felt that it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble, so they simply turned a blind eye to it. After all, it was all consensual. Yi Huanyan put away the recording pen and said solemnly, "This is the recording of the female anchor involved in the incident." Chapter 80. There was no need for Yi Huanyan to say anything. The executives present could tell who was the one who said that. "Manager Zhao, what else do you have to say?" Ling Han leaned back in his chair. His eyes were cold like a sharp blade as he glanced at the executives present. UXIN Media relied on the support of the Pleasure Group for its capital operation. Everything from the renovation of the live broadcast room to the monthly basic salary allowance for internet celebrities came from the Pleasure Group. But now, it seemed that not a single cent of this money was spent on the right path. The 4 managers of the artist management department had colluded with each other and nurtured all the signed artists of the company's live broadcast platform into their own harem. Those who slept well would be promoted, and those who did not sleep well would be suppressed. There were many female anchors involved in this kind of thing. They were either waiting for their contracts to expire or waiting for God to open his eyes and become popular overnight. The reason why the female streamer involved was so desperate to take such a risk was that the manager's surname Tang had provoked her with threats and promises. She was determined to fight to the death with the company before she left. After this incident, her reputation was completely ruined. However, as she wished, the incident had reached the head office and Linghan. As a result, the corruption within UXIN Media, which had always made Linghan feel at ease, was slowly exposed. No one would have thought that this seemingly glamorous operation was filled with rotten flesh and maggots. Linghan tapped his fingers on the table. Every word he said was very cold. From today onwards, Manager Zhao, take a break. I'll send someone from the headquarters to take over UXIN Media. The HR department has already put on record that the employees who leave will never be hired again. Your job now is to appease the signed artists. I'll send someone to supervise and select a batch of key training targets for this year. I don't want this kind of thing to happen again. No one dared to refute Linghan's decision. In fact, according to his previous behavior, even if he dismantled the entire company, it was not impossible for him to return the funds to the headquarters. In Yi Huanyan's eyes, this was already lenient. After returning to the hotel, Linghan lay on the sofa. His suit was wrinkled. He closed his eyes and looked a little tired. Yi Huanyan poured a cup of tea and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. She said softly, "President Ling, have some water." Linghan didn't move. He was still lying on the sofa, but his voice was a little muffled. I wonder how he dealt with these things back then. Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. He was probably referring to Ling Dongming. Ling Dongming had a natural business mind, which he had heard countless times from Jiang Milan. He was skilled in business, and no matter what kind of crisis he encountered, he would be able to think of a solution immediately. Furthermore, his temper was very gentle, as if she had never seen him anxious before. Linghan had inherited his brain, but not his temper. If Uncle Ling was still around, he would also be angry with them. His way of dealing with it was not much different from yours. It was just the difference between a good-tempered person and a bad-tempered person. In fact, sometimes they would take it more seriously if they were angry with their employees. This was also what Uncle Ling told me at that time. He was also very troubled about whether he would get angry. Linghan flipped over and sat up from the sofa. Are you saying that I have a bad temper? Yi Huanyan's expression froze and she looked embarrassed. Well, that's not what I meant. What I meant was that it's still very important to treat your subordinates with both kindness and severity. Both kindness and severity. A faint smile flashed across Linghan's eyes. When Yi Huanyan saw this expression, she felt an inexplicable fear. Secretary Yi, as a subordinate, do you think I treat you with kindness or kindness? His sudden question made Yi Huanyan's expression stiffen. I think it's just right. Thinking about Linghan's current mood, Yi Huanyan swallowed her saliva. She felt that it was better to leave. She stood up and walked towards the door of the suite. Well, I'll ask the hotel if there's any milk. It'll help me sleep better. Yi Huanyan, his voice came from behind her. She stopped in her tracks and couldn't help but freeze on the spot. What do you think about starting over? Her heart seemed to contract violently at this moment, as if she was suffocating. Then, that sentence began to circulate in her mind without limit. Her heart began to beat wildly, as if it was going to jump out of her chest. She couldn't suppress her emotions. She stood rooted to the spot with her back facing Linghan. She wanted to turn around, but didn't dare to. She was afraid that when she turned around, she would see the playful smile on his face and the sarcasm of success. Linghan stood behind her, a rare warmth floating in his deep eyes. When he woke up in the morning, he saw her in his arms when he opened his eyes. She mumbled twice, as if her sleeping position wasn't very comfortable. She moved around in his arms. At that moment, he suddenly felt that it was wonderful to be able to see her when he woke up. There was an indescribable feeling spreading in his heart. You just said. She slowly turned around and looked up at him, her eyes full of shock. Looking at her skeptical look, Ling Han thought that she had some misgivings. His eyes dimmed slightly as he said lightly, "You don't have to answer now. I can give you time to slowly think about it." There was still a long way to go. He had a lot of time to slowly wait. When Ling Han said this, Yi Huanyan's heart was filled with mixed feelings. It wasn't a dream, it was reality. She should be jumping for joy, but at this moment, her head couldn't seem to turn around. During this period of time, Ling Han's change was too big and too sudden. She couldn't even figure out why Ling Han suddenly wanted her to move back to the old house. During this period of time, she was still living in confusion. Suddenly, she was faced with the choice of whether to start over or not. "Hi, just call them to send the hot milk up. You don't have to make a trip yourself." Ling Han suddenly interrupted her. His calm tone accurately connected the previous conversation, as if this question had never existed. Yi Huanyan nodded slowly, her head dizzy. That night, in the 2 bedrooms across the living room, there were 2 different scenes. Yi Huanyan tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. After lying down for a while, she felt uncomfortable. When she finally felt a little sleepy, she couldn't help but think of what Ling Han said that night. Her mind instantly became clear again, and she began to struggle. She simply climbed out of bed and sat down on the sofa, with 2 different colored pillows in her arms. The 2 pillows were placed on the coffee table in front of her. "Do you think we should get back together?" She crouched beside the black pillow and imitated Ling Han's deep tone. After saying this, she quickly jumped behind the white pillow and said frantically, "What do you mean by I think? I've been sleeping with you for half a year. Don't you know what I think?" After rambling for a while, she crouched back behind the black pillow and said coldly, "You don't have to answer now. I can give you time to slowly think about it." After saying this, she madly threw the black pillow on the ground and stomped on it. F*CKU, you don't have to answer now. F*CKU, give me time to think about it. I only have one man like you. When it's time to be tough, why are you so slow? Chapter 81. While Yi Huanyan was going crazy in her room, the atmosphere in the opposite bedroom was very peaceful and harmonious. The light at the bedside was turned on just right, and the black curtains were drawn tightly. A distinct and well-defined face peeked out from under the sheets. His breathing was even, and it was rare for him to sleep soundly for more than half a year. The next day, Yi Huanyan got out of bed with a pair of panda eyes and applied 2 thick layers of powder in front of the mirror to barely cover them. However, she was still a little sickly and was clearly not in good spirits. The resignation of the 4 department managers of Yusen Media was indeed a very shocking matter. After all, it was not a normal resignation, and they did not even go through the most basic handover procedures. If it were someone else, they might not have the courage as Ling Han did. Ling Han did this because he felt that it was just a small piece of Pleasure Group's grand territory, and it made no difference to him whether it was there or not. However, Yi Huanyan knew how important Yusen Media was to Ling Han. If he really did not care, he would have directly closed down Yusen Media when he found out about the internal corruption. Since someone had left, someone had to replace him, and it had to be someone he trusted the most. Therefore, Ling Han's assistant, Qiao Mu, became the most suitable candidate. Qiao Mu and Ling Han had graduated from master's degree at the same time and returned to the country. After so many years of friendship, they were more like good friends than superiors. "If you leave Assistant Qiao here, who will do the assistant's work when you go back?" Yi Huanyan could not help but ask. "While Qiao Mu stays at Yusen to rectify the situation, I'll leave his work to you." "Huh?" Yi Huanyan exclaimed and looked at Ling Han in disbelief. He sat in the car and stared straight ahead. His well-defined fingers gripped the steering wheel, and his expression was calm, as if what he had just said was nothing out of the ordinary. "You want me to do it?" I haven't done Assistant Xiao's work before. It's similar to your work as a secretary. It's just that my assistant needs to follow me to various occasions." It was rare for Ling Han to have the patience to speak so casually. However, Yi Huanyan was not a naive girl on her first day at work. In terms of pleasure, she was very clear about the difference between an assistant and a secretary. The company's assistants were all trained to be at the level of the branch company's general manager. Whether it was in terms of the control of connections or the introduction of customer resources, almost one assistant could be compared to 10 salespeople in the department. Besides, Xiao Mu graduated with a master's degree from a famous foreign university, and her diploma was the same as Ling Han's. Letting her, a domestic art graduate, take his position was really flattering her. Why don't you think about it again? There are still many people in the headquarters. I can help you find. You don't want to work beside me? Ling Han suddenly asked. She was slightly taken aback. Stay by your side and work? She was just thinking about how to get rid of this hot potato, but she didn't think that as an assistant, she had to stay by Ling Han's side all the time. Was that what he meant? What do you mean? I said I would give you time to think about it. If you stay by my side during this time, wouldn't it be easier for you to give me an answer that is more beneficial to me? Today, it was as if Ling Han had eaten honey, and his words made Yi Huanyan feel the lingering sweetness in the air that could not be erased. She suddenly felt her face burning, and she could not say a single word of rejection. I'm going to have a discussion with Xiao Mu at the hotel in the afternoon about the rectification of use in media. You don't need to accompany me. If you're bored, you can walk around outside and have the people from Yusen accompany you. Ling Han's gentle attitude made Yi Huanyan feel that what she said last night was not just a pipe dream. Perhaps it was true that she had waited until the clouds parted, or perhaps it was true that he had changed his mind. There was an unconcealable smile in her eyes. In the afternoon, Xiao Mu arrived at the hotel on time with the documents. Yi Huanyan was packing her luggage in the room and had no intention of going out for a walk. She had been to Shanghai many times, and it was too commercialized. If she wanted to talk about going out for a walk, she would just go shopping and buy some things. She was not used to shopping alone without someone to talk to. Just as she was packing her luggage, her phone suddenly rang. It was an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment, looked at the somewhat familiar number, and pressed the answer button. Hello? Hello. Yin Yen, it's me, Lu Shun. When Yi Huanyan went out, Ling Han was flipping through the company's rectification plan that Xiao Mu had drafted. Seeing that she had changed and was about to go out, he looked up with a calm expression. Yi Huanyan felt a bit guilty and explained, I'm done packing, so it's better not to disturb you. I'm going out to get some fresh air. Ling Han raised his eyebrows slightly, and his expression was a bit cool. Afternoons are your free time to begin with. His blatant flirting made Yi Huanyan blush, and she hurriedly ran away with her head lowered. A strange look flashed through Xiao Mu's eyes. Thinking about how he was suddenly transferred to the management of the branch company, a trace of doubt gradually rose in his heart. He hesitated for a few seconds and probed. President Ling, I've thought about it carefully. There are still many things that haven't been done in the head office. If I'm transferred here, I might not be able to take care of the work there. How about we get someone else to do it? Ling Han frowned and looked up. He circled the key points on the proposal with a black pen and said calmly, No, I don't trust other people. Besides, you can just leave the head office's matters to Secretary Yi. You should know her ability. Xiao Mu was slightly taken aback. As expected, in the booth of the revolving restaurant of Shanghai's Riverside building, a very eye-catching man in a white coat was anxiously waiting for a certain someone's arrival. He did not remember anything that happened after he got drunk that night. If his manager had not told him everything, he really did not know if he would have given up on seeing her. Not long after, under the guidance of the waiter, a woman with long black hair looked in the direction of the booth in confusion. He raised his hand and saw her nod slightly, revealing a trace of a smile. Have you been waiting long? There are always traffic jams in Shanghai. He stood up and pulled out the seat for her in a gentlemanly manner. Thank you. A trace of astonishment flashed across her face. You don't have to be so polite with me. Sun Yanhua took off his sunglasses, revealing the appearance that many girls dreamed of. I'm already very happy that you can come. 20 minutes ago, Sun Yanhua called her and found out that she was in Shanghai. It just so happened that his concert was held in Shanghai tonight, so he asked her to come out to meet him as an apology for his rash drunkenness last time. What do you want to eat? Look at the menu. I only ordered coffee for you. Sun Yanhua handed over the menu. Isn't the concert starting at 7:30 tonight? Don't you need to prepare in advance? Looking at the menu, Yi Huanyan was a bit hesitant. Chapter 82. It's okay. We've already rehearsed. It's still early. Sun Yanhua looked a little uneasy. Looking at Yi Huanyan's expression, he seemed to be in a difficult position. You've had lunch, right? Let's order some desserts. This shop's desserts are not bad, and the environment is not bad. Yi Huanyan actually wanted to end it early and go back to rest. After all, with Sun Yanhua's current popularity, he could be recognized at any time on the streets. She had experienced such a storm once, and she did not want to experience it again. However, seeing how careful he was, she could not bear to see him like this. Okay, then let's order desserts. She had not seen Lucian for 10 years. Now that she could sit here quietly and eat something, even she felt that it was very magical. Brother Li told me about what happened when I was drunk. I'm really sorry. Brother Li even went to look for you. Did he cause you any trouble? It's nothing. I got off work at that time, and he sent me home. He couldn't get a taxi, so he did me a favor. You got off work so late? Sun Yanhua was a little surprised. Yi Huanyan was stunned, as if she did not know how to explain. It's not convenient to say this, right? He thought that this topic involved some privacy, so he quickly changed the topic. Oh right, your best friend, Xiaoyu. Actually, I really did not mean to use her. She's a very cute girl, and she's also my fan, so I don't mean any harm to her. If you mind, I won't be in contact with her in the future. He used to be a man of few words, and compared to Ling Han, now, he did not know much. The reason why he rambled on like this was because he was nervous. Yi Huanyan took a sip of coffee and was a little uncomfortable. Lucian, He was slightly taken aback and stopped his incoherent chatter. Actually, you don't have to deliberately find a topic to talk about. Although we haven't seen each other for a long time, you know my personality and I know your temper. Even if there's no topic to talk about, it's good to sit here quietly and enjoy the scenery for a while. Her gaze was calm, and her tone was soothing. Sun Yanhua could not connect her with the Yi Huanyan from back then. I still haven't formally apologized to you for what happened back then. That's what I wanted to tell you today. Yi Huanyan slowly exhaled. Actually, you didn't do anything wrong back then. If you hadn't met me, you would have left the country. Later on, my mother asked me if I wanted to go with you. I chose to stay. At the end of the day, girls matured earlier than boys and were more able to distinguish between right and wrong. 10 years ago, Yi Huanyan knew that Lucian should have left the country. Even if he had broken up with her, he should have left the country. That was his path, and she couldn't go. That was her own path. It was you who didn't want to go. Yes, my family wasn't in a good situation at that time, so I had to stay and accompany my mother. At the mention of this, Yi Huanyan had already become indifferent to it. Then you. Sun Yanhua choked up a little. Have you ever regretted it? All these years. If she had gritted her teeth and left with him back then, would the two of them be in a different situation now? I don't regret it. Almost without hesitation, Yi Huanyan raised her head and looked into his eyes. My mother passed away 2 years ago. After I calmed down and thought about it, it was fortunate that I stayed by her side all these years and did some filial piety. If I had left with you back then, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to feel at ease for the rest of my life unless something like this happened. Sun Yanhua's expression froze. He didn't expect that something like this would happen to Yi Huanyan's family. Back then, when he left the country, he tried to send many letters to high schools in the country, but they were like stones thrown into the sea. At that time, Yi Huanyan had transferred schools. Those letters that couldn't find the recipients were either lost or returned to him. In the end, he couldn't contact her. He didn't know what she had experienced in the past 10 years. I'm sorry, I didn't know. What's there to be sorry about? Jean Yen smiled. It has nothing to do with you. My mother is very magnanimous. She took care of me for so many years and weathered all kinds of storms. If you want to talk about hardships, actually, I didn't suffer much with her. Her life was quite worth it. Yi Huanyan's father died early, so Yi Huanyan's impression of him was very vague. Later on, when Jiang Milan met Ling Dongming, she fell in love with him so much that she didn't feel burdened at all. Instead, she was very happy for her. In this life, Jiang Milan had everything she wanted. Whether it was money, love, or marriage, she had it all. Her only regret was that she didn't have a long life. In life, there were always some regrets. Yi Huanyan looked at the shocked and pained expression on the man's face and felt a little apologetic. She pretended to be relaxed and said, "But at that time, when she first found out that I was with you, she was quite happy. You don't know, right? She liked you very much. She even told me that if she was 5 or 6 years younger, she would dare to snatch you from me. If she was free, when we returned to Lanjiang, I would bring you to give her 2 bouquets of flowers. She would definitely be very happy underground." Sun Yanhua smiled helplessly at her words that could be said to be disrespectful to the dead. If Aunt Jiang heard this, she would deduct your pocket money. I'm earning my own money now. I don't have to worry about food and drink. She can't control me. Speaking of salary, Yi Huanyan glanced at Sun Yanhua and stuck out her tongue. But of course, I don't earn as much as you. Sun Yanhua forced a smile. After Aunt Jiang passed away, did you live alone? He was more concerned about Yi Huanyan's current living situation. You're Sun Yanhua. Can you give me an autograph? A crisp voice suddenly sounded. Yi Huanyan was worried about how to answer. She was suddenly interrupted by this voice, which solved her awkwardness. The girl who came was standing between the two of them. She was wearing a black coat. She covered her face shyly with one hand and held an exquisite, small notebook in the other. She was looking at Sun Yanhua hesitantly. Yi Huanyan took the opportunity to lower her head and drink the coffee, covering her face. Sun Yanhua glanced at Yi Huanyan and frowned. Then he said apologetically, "I'm sorry. Today is my private time. I'll sign it next time if there's a chance." The girl was obviously disappointed. "Brother Hua, I'm your fan. I didn't get a ticket for tonight's concert. I didn't expect to meet you here. Just an autograph. Don't take a picture, okay? Little girl, if you do this, why don't you sign it for her?" When Yi Huanyan thought about her best friend who was obsessed with idols, she couldn't help but speak up for her little girl. Sun Yanhua looked at her in shock. In the end, under her expectant gaze, he helplessly took the notebook from the little girl's hand. He flipped to a page and signed his name. "Thank you. Do you need me to take a picture for you?" Yi Huanyan took the initiative to ask, completely ignoring Sun Yanhua's shocked expression. The little girl was obviously at a loss. She trembled and said, Can I?" Yi Huanyan's questioning gaze fell on Sun Yanhua. His face stiffened and he nodded helplessly. He silently cursed in his heart, "You already said it's okay. Do you want me to embarrass you here?" At this moment, he suddenly felt that Yi Huanyan was still the same as 10 years ago. She loved to tease people, liked to make decisions on her own, did things regardless of the consequences, and always acted bravely for justice. She was still as cute as before. Chapter 83. Are you numb to autographs and photos like this? After watching the little girl leave, Yi Huanyan asked. Sort of. There are too many of them, so sometimes. I really feel that it's private time, especially when you're here. I don't want them to disturb you. I'm fine. Yi Huanyan smiled sincerely. You know Xiaoyu? She's been a big fan of yours recently. I don't chase after celebrities, but every time I see her telling me about her new boyfriend so seriously, she can really wait at the airport for a photo or an autograph. Sun Yanhua was slightly stunned. Wait at the airport for a whole night? He was busy with his work, so he didn't know much about fans. However, when people asked him for autographs and photos, he wouldn't refuse most of the time. After all, they were people who liked him. You don't know how hard it is for fans like them to see you. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned and said hesitantly, "So when I saw that little sister's disappointed look, I thought of what happened to Xiaoya. I was careless." There was a trace of guilt in his eyes. "If I encounter something like this in the future, I won't refuse." Yi Huanyan smiled and nodded. "It's good that she didn't cause you any trouble." Trouble. Su Nianhua forced a smile. "Maybe. You don't know much about our industry." "Huh. How about we go somewhere else?" Su Nianhua picked up his jacket. This sudden action made Yi Huanyan confused. She was about to drink her coffee, but her hand was already on the cup. "Oh, are we leaving now?" "Yeah." Su Nianhua frowned, vaguely feeling that something was wrong. Yi Huanyan put down the coffee cup and looked up in confusion. She suddenly realized that everyone was looking at them. 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon was a good time for afternoon tea. The little girl from earlier was sitting in the booth behind Su Nianhua, pointing at them with a group of girls. Some of them seemed to be taking pictures with their phones. Yi Huanyan's expression stiffened. She finally understood what Su Nianhua meant when he said there might be some problems. Sure enough, one shouldn't be too compassionate, right? "Brother Hua, can I have your autograph?" "Brother Hua, I want to take a picture with you." "Brother Hua." Yi Huanyan couldn't remember how she was surrounded by a large group of people. She only remembered that Su Nianhua had pulled her out of the restaurant before she could react, but they were still blocked by the reporters and fans downstairs who heard the news and came to block them. Su Nianhua took off his jacket and covered her face with it. While blocking the fans, he retreated. In the end, the restaurant staff helped to send the two of them into the lounge and blocked the fans outside. Yi Huanyan's hair was messy on her shoulders, and her face was still in shock. "You must be scared, right?" Su Nianhua's eyes were full of apology. He took the cup of water from the waiter and handed it to Yi Huanyan first. "Drink some water first. I'll call Brother Li. He will come and take us away." Yi Huanyan drank a mouthful of water and barely calmed her emotions. So this was what it felt like to be hunted down. Su Nianhua's jacket was on her legs. It was pure white and very clean. It seemed to be the first time he wore it. He was talking on the phone in the corner. He looked a little impatient, as if he was very anxious and worried. Yi Huanyan looked up at the clock on the wall. It was already 4 o'clock. He should be at the concert venue early, right? After hanging up the phone, Su Nianhua walked towards her. "What did you say?" "Brother Li is on his way, but we still have to think of a way to avoid the fans and rush out. It might be a little dangerous." "It's okay. Why don't you just go? I'll stay here alone. Anyway, the one they want to chase is you." "Leave you alone to be questioned by the reporters?" Su Nianhua blinked. "I don't want to do something so unkind." Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Thinking of how scary the reporters and fans were, her whole body trembled. "I'll go with you." At 5:30, Su Nianhua received a call. His agent had already driven the car to the restaurant building. The restaurant staff pointed in the direction of the back door. He waved at Yi Huanyan. "Come here." Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned and walked over in confusion. "Huh?" There was a faint smell of perfume. The light suddenly became dim. His body temperature and breath seemed to sweep across her forehead. He put the jacket on her head and said softly, "Cover your face. The reporters will pay attention to the mosaics, but the fans won't. If you are exposed, it will be troublesome." Yi Huanyan nodded. Her hands covered both sides of her face. Wearing Su Nianhua's sunglasses, only her nose was exposed for breathing. "Are you ready?" Su Nianhua asked. "Yes." She felt a warmth in her palms. She panicked. Before she could react, she was pulled out by him. Her feet involuntarily followed him. Her high heels stepped on the floor and the stairs, and the soles of her feet were painful. "Don't look back. Run with me." A familiar figure was waving at them in front of them. Li Dali looked anxious. He was angry at Su Nianhua for acting on his own this time. The door of the white van was already open. Su Nianhua's voice was drowned out by the wind. It was the first time that she had encountered such a situation where she was being chased. She couldn't help but turn around to look at the direction of the pursuers. As she turned around, she lost her balance and crashed into Sun Yanhua's back. Ah! She cried out in alarm, and one of the high heels on her feet fell off. Sun Yanhua quickly turned back to help her. Seeing that the pursuers were not far away, he simply carried Yi Huanyan in a princess carry and ran toward the van. More than 10 meters away, Yi Huanyan leaned into the embrace that smelled faintly of perfume. There was only one thought in her mind. She really shouldn't have turned back. Her ankle really hurt. She probably sprained her ankle. Crash. The fan screamed and the camera flashes were all turned off outside the car door. Li Dali sat opposite the two of them and tried to take deep breaths to adjust his mood. Sun Yanhua, how can you do this? Do you know that we are going crazy looking for you? Do you know that you have a concert tonight? Sun Yanhua didn't care about the agent's question. He didn't even look at Li Dali. He carefully put Yi Huanyan on the seat and asked, "Is your ankle okay?" Yi Huanyan held her ankle and tried to move it a little. She said embarrassedly, "It's nothing. It's just my shoes." Unfortunately, that pair of shoes was quite expensive. "It's okay. How about this? I'll buy you a new pair." Sun Yanhua looked up and calmly told the driver in front of him, "Old Tang, go to the mall first." Sun Yanhua. Li Dali was fuming with anger. He pointed at the man opposite him who treated his kindness like a bad person and shouted angrily, "If you continue to ignore the team's warning, we really have to kneel down to you." Chapter 84. Well, there's no need. Your concert is more important. Yi Huanyan glanced at Li Dali. From his anxious expression and his crazy complaints just now, she knew that Sun Yanhua had sneaked out without telling everyone, and the concert was indeed a matter of urgency. Thank God, thank God. Miss Yi, you're really a good person. Li Dali's expression changed, and the way he looked at Yi Huanyan suddenly became much gentler. Then what about your shoes? Sun Yanhua was wholeheartedly worried about Yi Huanyan's shoes. Li Dali took a deep breath. There are so many group dances at your concert. I'll lend you a pair. Sun Yanhua looked at Yi Huanyan, as if asking for her opinion. There was indeed not much time left. If he did not go to the concert, the organizers would really go crazy. Miss Yi, come with us. Now that the fans are following us, we can't guarantee that we won't be surrounded by fans when we get off the bus. Why don't we watch the concert together? I'll leave you a seat in the infield. Li Dali looked at Yi Huanyan with a pleading expression. If Miss Yi did not go, who knew what kind of trouble would happen at tonight's concert? Yi Huanyan was a bit conflicted. She looked down at her bare left foot and said with a wry smile, "I'm fine." She was obviously riding a tiger and could not get off. The concert was full of people. A video of reporters chasing Sun Yanhua near the revolving restaurant had quickly spread on the internet, setting off a round of discussions about the women around Sun Yanhua. In the suite of the Shanghai International Hotel, Ling Han had just come out of the shower and turned on the TV. He saw a gossip news broadcast, and his eyes were slightly attracted. At this time, his phone rang. "Hello?" A heavy voice sounded in the room. A white towel was draped over his shoulder, and his bony fingers touched the remote control to lower the volume of the TV. "President Ling, there's news about the investigation last time." Xiao Mu's voice sounded from the phone, and it was a bit serious. "What do you mean?" Madam Ling's death in a car accident was confirmed to be not an accident, but man-made. The driver who caused the accident is a distant cousin of the Yi family. It took a long time to find out. Back then, his daughter was sick and the surgery fee was too high. He had no choice but to beg Jiang Milan, but there was no one in the Yi family anymore. At first, Jiang Milan didn't help him, but later on, someone saw Jiang Milan go to the driver's house with their own eyes. Who saw it? Under the dim yellow light, Ling Han's face was slightly pale. "I just contacted the driver's ex-wife yesterday and showed her a photo of Jiang Milan. She said that she had seen her once at home. According to the bank records, Jiang Milan gave the driver who caused the accident a large sum of money and sent his daughter to the hospital for treatment. The day of the surgery was the day of your mother's accident. Later on, the operation failed. The driver looked for Jiang Milan, but Jiang Milan moved with her daughter. He didn't have a way to contact her. Later on, he got addicted to alcohol, and his wife ran away with someone else. Now, he's living a poor life. He goes crazy whenever his daughter is mentioned. President Ling, do you still need to find other evidence? President Ling? On the other end of the phone, Qiao Mu stared at the phone screen. He didn't know when the call ended. He frowned and thought about what was going to happen, but his eyes were full of guilt. In the hotel suite, the image on the TV flashed. The host of the gossip show was reporting the daily news. The scene changed to a revolving restaurant on the side of the Shanghai River. A man was running with a woman in a white dress on her head while being chased by a crowd. At the end of the scene, the man was carrying her in a princess carry. The famous singer Sun Yanhua is holding a concert in Shanghai today. Fans gathered in Shanghai found that Sun Yanhua was dating a woman before the concert. The two seemed to be having an ambiguous conversation. I don't know if the fans and passers-by will still believe what they see. The female host's voice was a bit sharp. Even though the volume was lowered to the lowest, it was still too harsh in the quiet room. It was as if every word was poked out by a needle. A pair of eyes were filled with coldness as they stared at the content on the screen. One hand gripped the phone tightly, and the veins on the back of the hand bulged. The next second, with a bang, the black phone hit the TV screen, and the phone suddenly shattered into pieces. Mixed with the light on the TV screen, the phone flashed crazily twice in the dark night, as if it was making a final struggle. In the end, it died together with the TV, losing the light and being completely immersed in darkness. The culprit was holding the corner of the table, and the trembling force made the whole table shake slightly. Only the sound of heavy breathing was left in the air. The concert venue was filled with thunderous cheers, and pink light sticks converged into a sea of flowers. Yi Huanyan sat below the stage and waved the light sticks with the fanatical fans in the VIP area around her. After thousands of cheers, she finally ushered in the explosive sound of music. The figure that appeared on the elevator drove the thousands of fans in the venue to celebrate. Although Yi Huanyan hadn't heard any of Sun Yanhua's songs, the fans' appeal was infinite. She bloomed the most sincere smile and sent encouragement to the figure on the stage. 3 hours of singing and dancing, the perfect performance of each song, made the fans go crazy. During one of the audience interactions, the spotlight in the audience area flashed. All the fans stood up from their seats and waved desperately, hoping that the spotlight and camera would be pointed at their position, as if they were waiting for God's blessing. Backstage, Li Dali looked at the audience from afar, and a trace of meaning flashed in his eyes. While looking at the position where the camera swept across on the big screen, he whispered into the headset, "Camera, camera, focus the spotlight on the long-haired woman wearing a beige coat in the VIP area. Row 3, seat 6. Bang! The stage exploded, and Yi Huanyan's face slowly appeared in the smoke. Under the envious and jealous gazes, Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked up at the big screen and pointed to her nose in disbelief. Okay, it's this beautiful lady. On the stage was a famous male host from Shanghai. He smiled politely in the direction of Yi Huanyan. Spotlight, please dim the light a little. Don't scare our beautiful fan. Thank you. Sun Yanhua stood beside the host and looked at Yi Huanyan. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes, and he glanced at Li Dali's position on the left side of the stage. He saw Li Dali making a gesture to cheer him on. Next is the private interaction time between this fan and our brother Hua. This fan must seize this opportunity. The microphone was passed from the front row to Yi Huanyan's hand. With so many people looking at her, she was a little nervous, and the sweat on her palms slightly wet the microphone. Chorus, chorus. Hug, hug, hug. Ah, 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 ah. The fans in the audience crazily shouted their innermost desires, and Yi Huanyan was a little at a loss. On the stage, Sun Yanhua's sharp eyes glanced at Li Dali's seat. Then, he lowered his head and touched the microphone on his cheek. He raised his head and smiled, trying to smooth things over. Why don't we tell you the truth? Chapter 85. A familiar voice suddenly sounded on the stage, and the fans gradually quieted down. Su Nianhua's voice echoed throughout the stadium. It was gentle and delicate, and it was more touching than any other concert. Hugs, sing-along, or something else that everyone has played before. Did a fan leave a message saying that Brother Hua's body belongs to everyone? At this point, Su Nianhua winked at the audience, and the audience burst into laughter. That means that no matter who monopolizes it, many sisters will be unhappy. For example, during the last concert, many sisters wrote to me crying, saying that I was a heartless man. Another burst of laughter. Yi Huanyan also laughed, and her expression relaxed a lot. Why don't we have a spiritual exchange today? Su Nianhua tilted his head and bloomed his signature smile at the fans. There are many sisters here, and all of you should have someone you love. Some of them are by your side now, some of them you love very much, some of them love you very much, or some of them you are very lucky to love each other. And some of them are in the bottom of your heart that you used to love, or some of them that you let go of, but still think of occasionally. His voice had a kind of magic, and it made the fans who were shouting crazily a few seconds ago feel emotional under the influence of this moment, and Yi Huanyan was no exception. Whether it was in the past or in the present, we used to love seriously. Should we say something to the people we loved that we never had the chance to say? There were already many fans nodding gently. Then, why don't we have a few interactions today? Brother Hua will give you this opportunity to say such heartfelt words to the people you loved, and the people you love now. The host didn't do anything at all. He only saw the fans nodding crazily, and some even had tears in their eyes. It was probably because they thought of the past, and they couldn't stop crying. Su Nianhua's gaze fell on Yi Huanyan. This fan, do you agree? Yi Huanyan glanced at the girl next to her, who was crying her heart out, and then nodded. The fanaticism dispersed, and a long silence followed. I once had a person that I really liked. Like many people, it was the first time I knew what it felt like to like someone at the age of 17 or 18. Later, we broke up because of reality. I know that he has always blamed himself, and I have also broken down and suffered. I felt that life was hopeless and dark in the middle of the night. At that time, I felt that I would never fall in love with anyone in this life. The so-called true love in this world is all made up by writers. Speaking of this, Yi Huanyan seemed to be tainted with a trace of the emotions of that night. She took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. About half a year later, I started a new life, got to know new people, and started anew in a new environment. The more I immersed myself in the new environment, the less I thought about him. In the end, I couldn't even remember what he looked like. Actually, breaking up is a very common thing. In life, we constantly break up, leave each other, say goodbye to yesterday, and meet different people at different times. Time can heal everything. If you think it can't, it's because it hasn't been long enough, or you haven't met someone who can make you let go of the past. I'm grateful to the person I met later on, who made me truly let go of the past. Yi Huanyan looked at Su Nianhua and smiled. I hope that the boy I loved can also let go of the past. Her words touched people's hearts, and there were fans sobbing softly. Su Nianhua held the microphone, and his voice was gentle. I hope that all the fans present, not present, who support me and like me, can let go of the past that they can't get back. The cheers were mixed with a lot of sobbing, and from the sea of pink glow sticks, it sounded like a wave of thunder. One after another, a few fans, who were caught on camera, stood up and told their own stories while choking with sobs. There were also some fans who didn't have any stories, but still asked to go on stage to hug and interact. Su Nianhua treated them all meticulously and seriously. After the interaction, it was a lyrical slow song. As the prelude slowly played, the girls around him returned to their frenzy, crying and confessing to the man playing the piano on stage. Yi Huanyan had a faint smile at the corner of her mouth, and she looked gently at the man on stage. When she met him, he was still a boy, proud and cold. Except for his studies and music, he didn't care about anyone else. 10 years later, he returned, with glory and thousands of supporters. He also had a gentle gaze and delicate smile that had been tempered by time, warming many more girls besides her. After the concert, Sun Yanhua rushed backstage and called Yi Huanyan before he changed his clothes. "Wait for me, I'll send you back." "No need, I got a taxi." Sun Yanhua suddenly choked. "I'm sorry about what happened on stage today. Brother Li acted on his own accord and made you feel awkward." "It's okay, I have something to tell you, but it's hard to say it alone. It's good this way. In the future, we'll still be friends." The other end of the phone was silent for a while, and then his gentle voice came, as if he was relieved. "Thank you, Yi Huanyan. All the past would be let go. 10 years was too long. Cherish the present." Back at the hotel, Yi Huanyan was a little nervous. She didn't know if Ling Han was asleep, and if she explained to him truthfully, would it cause any misunderstanding? She swiped the room card to open the door, but it was dark inside. She felt for the wall and pressed the switch, but there was no response. After a long time, she inserted the room card and turned on the light. Why didn't she insert the room card? Ling Han wasn't in. She went straight to Ling Han's door and knocked twice. Knock, knock, knock. "Ling Han, are you in there?" She opened the door, but there was no one inside. Strange. She carried her bag and walked toward her room. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of the TV in the living room from the corner of her eye. There was an obvious crack in the middle of the LCD screen, and the crack spread from the middle like a spider web. It looked like it was about to fall apart. Following the direction of the glass shards, there was a corpse of a phone on the ground. Ling Han's phone. Yi Huanyan's face froze, and she quickly walked over to check. She confirmed that it was this phone that broke the TV. How much strength did it use to make such a big hole in the TV? Something was wrong? Who did it? Yi Huanyan frowned and immediately took out her phone to call Qiao Mu. "Hello? Assistant Qiao, did anything happen during the meeting with President Ling this afternoon?" "No, I left before dinner." "What's wrong?" Looking at the smashed phone and TV, Yi Huanyan's heart sank more and more. He's not in the hotel. The hotel's TV is broken, and his phone is also broken on the ground. What's going on? What happened to him? Can you get in touch with him now? The other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds, as if she wanted to say something but hesitated. After a while she said, "Secretary Yi, don't worry. I'll contact the hotel staff and ask them." Yi Huanyan's face froze. Qiao Mu didn't know either. Chapter 86. I'll look around the hotel and contact the other 2 branches in Shanghai. If I can't find them, we'll call the police. Yi Huanyan's stress response forced her to think of the worst-case scenario. Qiao Mu was anxious. Don't look for them. What if something happens in the middle of the night? Stay in the hotel. That's all. I can't stay here. Contact me if you have any news. After saying this, she hung up the phone and left the hotel with her bag. She called all the branches in Shanghai as she walked. Qiao Mu looked at the phone and frowned. She remembered what Ling Han said before he left, and her face was filled with embarrassment. Late at night, all the branches in Shanghai were closed, and no one could get through. Yi Huanyan took a taxi to one place after another. When she came out of the last company, the sky was gradually changing, and a large dark cloud was approaching Shanghai. The driver yawned in the car. "Miss, are you going home? It's getting late. I have to get off work." "Master, please come with me to another place. It's in Jiangpu." "What Jiangpu?" "Miss, are you kidding me? Jiangpu and this place are the 2 ends of Shanghai. If I send you back, it'll be dawn by the time I come back." "Master, find someone else. I'm off work." After saying this, the car window rolled up mercilessly, and the car disappeared into the night with a puff of smoke. Yi Huanyan stood at the entrance of the branch, and the tip of her nose was cold. The sudden raindrops were extremely cold and seemed to be able to corrode her skin. She hurriedly held her bag over her head and ran to the bus stop nearby to take shelter from the rain. At this time, her phone rang. It was Chow Mu. Secretary Yi, where are you? Do you have news of President Ling? There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then I'll go to Jiangpu. Are you crazy? Chow Mu's incredulous voice sounded from the other end of the phone. You want to go to Jiangpu so late? Don't you know that there are factories in the suburbs there? The rain pattered down, and the night bus ran every 20 minutes. In the cold, rainy night, Yi Huanyan's voice was trembling. Could he have been kidnapped? Over the years, Ling Han had acquired a lot of small media companies, and some of them were very aggressive. He had made a lot of enemies, and it was hard to say if there would be people who would do such things in desperation. On the other end of the phone, Chow Mu took a deep breath, and her expression was very unsightly. After hesitating for a long time, she stammered, I just checked the hotel's underground parking lot surveillance footage. Director Ling's car drove to Lan River. Perhaps nothing happened and just rushed back early. Xiqing? Yi Huanyan's expression changed. So, why don't you go back to the hotel first? Where are you? I'll pick you up. When Chow Mu arrived at the bus stop, Yi Huanyan had curled into a ball and was shivering in a corner. He sucked in a breath of cold air and hurriedly got out of the car to take off his coat and put it on her. Why don't you find a place to hide? Get in the car. Assistant Chow. Yi Huanyan grabbed Chow Mu's sleeve. I have to return to Shi City. Secretary Yi, come back to the hotel with me first. It's still raining. Can you leave tomorrow morning? I won't be at ease if I don't see him. She looked up at Chow Mu, and the rain fell down her cheeks. Her eyes were red, and she looked helpless. It's too late. Chow Mu tilted her head, not daring to look into her eyes. How about tomorrow? Assistant Chow, lend me the car. I'll go back by myself. Chow Mu did not know how godly Yi Huanyan's driving skills were, but he really did not know what to do when he saw her stubborn look. The black car disappeared in the rain. He frowned and sighed. His phone flashed. It was a text message from Shang Anren. It was very blurry because of the rain in the night. Although I don't know what method you used, I really have to thank you. He just called me. Everyone had something they were obsessed with. Shang Anren was obsessed with the happiness in her fantasy. Ling Han was obsessed with an irreversible past, and Yi Huanyan was obsessed with a man who could not open his heart to her. What about her? She was obsessed with a smile on that person's face, even if that smile had nothing to do with her. It took 2.5 hours to drive from Shanghai to Lanjiang City on the highway. It was a relatively safe distance. No one knew what this distance meant to Yi Huanyan, whether it was the speed of life or death. The windshield wipers flapped, blurring her vision. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Yi Huanyan's car drove to the entrance of the community. When she entered the gate, the car hit the stone foundation at the entrance and died with a bang. The security guard in the security room came over with an umbrella to check the situation. The driver's door was stuck next to the gate, so the security guard could only ask about the situation from the passenger's window. The rain grew heavier and drowned out the sound. What happened? The security guard shouted at the top of his lungs. Yi Huanyan waved her hand. She was still in a state of shock as she gestured. I don't know. Try to reverse the car. The security guard leaned over the passenger's window and commanded, start the car first, then reverse the car and go out to have a look. Jean Yen nodded quickly and tried to start the car. A red sports car drove out of the community in the distance, honked from a distance, and turned on the double flash to signal her to turn off the high beam. Yi Huanyan was in a hurry and did not know what to do for a long time. The sports car probably thought that Yi Huanyan was looking for trouble, so it also turned on the high beam. Yi Huanyan could not open her eyes when the lights were turned on, and her movement to start the car suddenly stopped. Seeing this, the security guard hurriedly gestured for the sports car to drive out from the west gate, indicating that there was an accident here. The sports car stopped for a while, reversed on the spot, and then made a beautiful turn in the direction of the west gate. Yi Huanyan's eyes were stagnant, and she could not believe what she had just seen. In the familiar red sports car that her high beam was waiting to shine on, the woman driving was wearing a blue-gray coat, and the red silk nightgown inside could be faintly seen. What surprised Yi Huanyan was that delicate and enchanting face. Who else could it be but Shang Anren? Why was she here? Why was she wearing her own clothes? Hey, you, what are you doing? The security guard looked at Yi Huanyan in surprise as she climbed from the driver's seat to the passenger's seat. When she pushed open the door, she almost pushed him down. In his yelling, she stumbled into the community, leaving a car with the passenger's door open and a mess on the ground. Deep in the community, Ling Han's villa. Beep, beep, beep. The combination lock at the door fell down. A wet fur shawl fell on the porch, and the woman's coat was scattered on the floor of the living room, which had been wet by the rain. The dripping, wet traces spread all the way from the living room to the stairs, and followed those traces to the master bedroom. The 1/3 of the master bedroom belonged to Yi Huanyan. The big room was illuminated by the lightning outside the window, and then there was a loud bang, and the thunder was deafening. She held the handrail of the stairs and struggled to support her body to climb up step by step. Although this absurd reality had been so naked in front of her, she still did not give up and wanted to see it with her own eyes. Chapter 87. The room was filled with the smell of obscenity. In the bedroom that used to belong to her, the first thing she saw was the big white bed in the middle. The pure white sheets were crumpled into a ball and dragged at the end of the bed. In the middle of the bed, there was a pool of ambiguous water stain. It was like a beast that taunted her and stopped her footsteps. She tried to look up and saw a black lace G-string lying on the pillow. The woman's skirt and blouse were all crumpled. It could be seen that there was a big battle in this place just now. A trace of pain flashed in her eyes. Her eyes slowly moved to the sofa at the end of the bed. The man was wearing gray velvet pajamas with a loose belt around his waist. There was a cigarette between his fingers. The smoke from the flickering cigarette but was curling up, making his face a little blurred. Yi Huanyan's sudden appearance didn't seem to shock him. He didn't even look up. He took a puff of the cigarette and slowly exhaled. Then, he turned his head to look out of the window. It seemed that, after a long time, he found a person standing at the door. He faintly greeted her. "It's raining so heavily. Why are you here?" Yi Huanyan's body trembled slightly in the dark. Her voice was a little faint, but it was very clear in this strange atmosphere. "I saw Shang Anren just now in the community." "You saw Anren?" He interrupted her and turned around in surprise. Then, with a calm expression, he lightly lit the cigarette and flicked the ash away as he said faintly, "Don't worry. After all, you haven't moved out yet. There are too many things left here. It's a little troublesome to be found by her, so I didn't let her stay overnight." Speaking of this, he paused slightly. "By the way, Anren's clothes are dirty. I asked the servant to give her an unworn one from you. You don't mind, do you?" She felt as if something was taking away her strength from her body. Her legs couldn't move, as if they were stuck to the same place. He made love with another woman in this bed that used to belong to her. He dirtied her sheets and quilt cover. He also let that woman wear her clothes. He asked her, "Do you mind?" Her face was stiff, and a bitter smile gradually appeared at the corner of her mouth. Should she say that she didn't mind? Did she not mind this woman wearing her clothes or sleeping with her man? Or did she not mind this man in front of her asking her if she wanted to start over last night? In less than a day, he slept with another woman on her bed. Her expression gradually became pained, but there was still a trace of unwillingness. "Last night, you were the one who asked me if I wanted to start over." Her voice trembled with the sound of the north wind whistling through the window. "Chi." A scornful laugh came from the darkness. His tall figure stood up from the sofa, leaving behind a long shadow as he gradually approached Yi Huanyan. He took a deep drag of the cigarette, then casually threw the butt away and raised his hand to pinch her chin. Smoke filled the air as he exhaled spirals of smoke from his mouth. mixed with the thick smell of alcohol. It sprinkled all over her face. Cough, 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 cough. She coughed violently. Her facial features scrunched together, and the intense pain from her chin woke her up instantly. She could hear the sound of his breathing. Yeah, how about starting over and changing the way we play? She was uncomfortable from the smoke, so she forced herself to open her eyes. What entered her sight was his scornful gaze, which was no different from those nights when he looked at her. In this short period of time, all the warmth, like a dream bubble, was instantly destroyed. Her brain stopped working, and before she could figure out what she had done wrong, she was flipped onto the bed in the next second. Her lips were fiercely covered, and the pain of being bitten felt like it was going to devour her marrow, violently hitting every nerve in her body. Don't touch me. Ugh, when she thought about what had just happened on the bed, she opened her eyes with tears flowing down her face. From the corner of her eyes, she caught a glimpse of the black lace thong on the pillow, and her heart felt nauseous. She didn't know where she got the strength, but she pushed Ling Han away and lay on the side to retch violently. Her beige dress was a little dazzling under the dim, yellow light. Ling Han looked at her twitching shoulders and thought about the news today, and his face became even more serious. You feel disgusted? Aren't you disgusted to see other men dressed like this? Yi Huanyan covered her chest, her eyes were wet, and she choked with her last bit of strength. I'm innocent. If you're angry because of this reason, I have nothing to say. But I saw you and Sheng Anren doing such a disgusting thing in my bed with my own eyes. You can't pour this dirty water on my head. Do you feel hurt by your appearance? Ling Han sneered. Do you think I care about your innocence? You even sent the first time to my bed, so easily. What self-esteem do you have? Hearing this, her tears couldn't stop anymore. Her vision was completely blurred, and his vicious words were in her ears, shattering all the dreams and happiness of these days. Maybe I gave you some fantasy these days? Have you forgotten who you are? Do you really think you're Mrs. Ling? Don't you think it's ridiculous? Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth, and the tears that should have been shed flowed out. She sobbed and looked at the man. Since you've never forgiven me, why? Why all this time? Why did you say those words last night? I've tasted the taste of you in bed. I'm tired of it. I want to change away. Ling Han raised the corner of his mouth and leaned over slightly, looking at her as if he was admiring a work of art. I've seen enough of the feeling of stepping on the ground. I want to see what kind of person you are when you're lifted up high and then fall down, for whatever reason. He laughed and his fingers brushed across her cheek. I think it's very interesting now. Yi Huanyan bit her lips, and a trace of blood spread on her lips. Her eyes were almost red, as if they were filled with blood. She stared at Ling Han, not daring to believe that he would say such a thing. What? You don't believe me? Ling Han sneered, and his hand went up her leg and under her skirt. Her whole body was cold, but she did not resist. Her eyes seemed to have lost focus, and she looked at him in a daze. Her body did not have any reaction, and her limbs were stiff, and her face was stiff. She was like a puppet lying on the big white bed, lifeless. Ling Han furrowed his brows and coldly threw down a sentence. Disappointing. After a bam sound, 1/3 of the big master bedroom returned to silence. There was a deathly silence. In the messy and obscene atmosphere of the room, Yi Huanyan's body slid down the bed little by little, and finally sat on the carpet beside the bed. A thunder in the rainy night resounded through the sky, and the room suddenly burst into tears. It was heart-wrenching, and mixed with the sound of the heavy rain, it was like a sadness that went deep into the bone marrow. This world had never cared for her, and everything returned to its original point, which was still endless sorrow. Chapter 88. It was raining heavily outside the window. Yi Huanyan sat on the edge of the bed and did not move for a long time. In fact, she really wanted to leave this dirty room, but her body seemed to have been drained. It was as if all her strength had been used up when she opened the door and saw these disgusting things on the ground. In the master bedroom next door, the man held the door frame and clenched his fists. His face was gloomy. "Didn't you say you wanted to start over with me?" That sentence kept echoing in his mind, and he couldn't get it out of his head. The rumbling of the thunder made the whole night dull and powerless. It was like a warning from fate that made everything tremble. The next morning, when Ling Han came downstairs, Ling Ling told him that Yi Huanyan had left. He frowned and didn't say anything. During breakfast, Ling Ling carefully observed Ling Han's expression. Seeing that he looked normal, she asked hesitantly, "Master, do you want to return Miss Shang's clothes?" Ling Han looked calm, but his voice was cold. "No, throw it away." Ling Ling was slightly stunned. She nodded hesitantly. Before leaving, Ling Han looked back in the direction of Yi Huanyan's bedroom. His face gradually darkened. In the president's office of Pleasure Group, Ji Xiaoya hummed a song as she punched in at the last second. She greeted the secretaries in the cubicle outside the president's office, then walked into the secretary's office in her high heels. She put down her things and picked up an empty cup on the table to pour some coffee. From the corner of her eye, she saw a black head resting on Yi Huanyan's desk. Her hand trembled and she almost dropped the cup. "Oh my God! Yan Yan?" She covered her mouth, put down the cup, and walked to Yi Huanyan's desk. At this moment, Yi Huanyan heard the sound. She raised her head with difficulty and looked at her with a pair of red and swollen eyes. Her face looked like she was seriously lacking blood. "Morning, morning, my ass. When did you come back? Look at you." Ji Xiaoya looked at her face in shock. She was stunned. "You didn't sleep here the whole night, did you? What are you doing?" Yi Huanyan sat up straight and forced a smile. "How can I sleep here all night? You're so busy with work. Come back early." Ji Xiaoya had a look of disbelief on her face. Just as she was about to ask more questions, Li Shan from the same department walked to the door and knocked on the glass door of the secretary's office. "Secretary Yi, you're really back." Yi Huanyan frowned. "Yes, what's the matter?" "Last night, Assistant Xiao called me and asked me to hand over his follow-up work to you this morning. I came to see if you're back." "Last night?" Ji Xiaoya stared at Li Shan in confusion. "Isn't that so?" Li Shan revealed a speechless expression. "Yesterday, in the middle of the night, I suddenly received a call from Assistant Xiao. My boyfriend questioned me for a long time, saying that there's no reason for a male colleague to call in the middle of the night." A strange expression flashed across Yi Huanyan's face. She combed the stray strands of hair by her temples and said calmly, "The work in Shanghai is urgent. I haven't found a suitable person to be in charge of the company's restructuring, so President Ling kept Assistant Xiao. The Human Resources Department hasn't had time to send out a transfer notice. I think Assistant Xiao was worried that it would be inconvenient for me to come back, so he let you know in advance." "I see." Li Shan suddenly understood. "Then I'll go prepare the documents." Looking at Li Shan's back, Ji Xiaoya looked back at Yi Huanyan in disbelief. "You didn't come back last night, right?" "Yes." "President Ling is back too?" "Yes." "Are you crazy? What work is so urgent?" "Last night, there were several landslides on the Shanghai-Lanzhou highway. It was such a big storm. Can't you persuade him or let him come back alone?" Ji Xiaoya thought that Yi Huanyan and Ling Han came back together. Yi Huanyan frowned slightly. She wanted to explain, but thinking of Ji Xiaoya's fiery temper, she gave up. If she knew that she drove back by herself, she would be nagged by her for several days. Ling Han came out of the house after breakfast. The red sports car had been waiting at the door for a long time. The window slowly rolled down, revealing a face wearing huge sunglasses. "Han, good morning." Her delicate voice was sweet and affectionate. He frowned, and his eyes were a little cold. He glanced at the car. "I remember when you left last night, I told you not to come here without my permission." Shang Anren's face was slightly stiff. She took off her sunglasses embarrassedly, and her voice was a little aggrieved. "I didn't go in. I waited for you at the door. But I don't have a job today. I want to send you to work." Can't I? As soon as the voice fell, the door of the passenger seat opened. The car shook slightly, and his faint voice sounded beside him. Let's go. It won't happen again. Well. Shang Anren's mouth evoked a perfect arc, and all the complacency was shown on her face. A man like Ling Han, who is stared at by so many women every day, as long as she is given a little chance, she can't let it go. Although he always does things beyond her expectations, it doesn't matter. Who doesn't have a little hobby? The secretary of the pleasure group. Yi Huanyan devoted herself to her work, so that she had no time to think about the absurdity of last night. Ji Xiaoya drank tea leisurely and occasionally glanced at her. She always felt that her state was inexplicably excited, as if she was hiding some kind of excessive excitement. Yen, what's the matter with you? What's the trouble? She asked tentatively. Yes, Yi Huanyan raised her head and handed out 2 documents. Copy these 2 documents if you have time. Ji Xiaoya raised her eyebrows slightly. No problem. After Ji Xiaoya left, there was only the rustling sound of papers flipping in the secretary's office. Xiao Mu's affairs were far more complicated and numerous than Yi Huanyan imagined. Pleasure Media's partner, Chili Film and Television, which had been involved in the post-production of Pleasure Media, had its contract expired this year and had not been renewed. In the contract renewal tracking record, Xiao Mu mentioned that Chili Film and Television seemed to intend to cooperate with Pleasure's competitor, Bale Media. This was the first problem she faced when taking over Xiao Mu's work. Another thing that made her even more difficult was the formulation of the company's collective artist outing plan that Ling Han had given her. With so much work on her, she had to make a choice. Good morning, President Ling. Miss Shang, President Ling. The voice from outside the door made Yi Huanyan's body stiffen, and she stopped flipping through the documents. It was as if a nerve that had been suppressed had been reactivated. She thought that after the humiliation last night, she would be thoroughly disappointed and would not have any more mood swings. However, when she heard these 2 people's names mentioned together, her blood still surged in her heart. Good morning, Secretary Yi. Why isn't Secretary Ji here yet? A sweet voice came from the door, as if it was a demonstration. Yi Huanyan raised her head, but her gaze landed on Ling Han. She secretly tightened her grip on the document in her hand, and the paper gradually crumpled into a ball. Shang Anren frowned and sized her up. Secretary, Yi doesn't look well today. You didn't sleep well last night. Did you work overtime? Chapter 89. Yi Huanyan was reminded by her voice and came back to her senses. Nothing. Thank you for your concern, Miss Shang. Ling Han glanced at her and said lightly, Do you have a good relationship with Secretary Yi? Shang Anren was slightly stunned. She looked at Ling Han's face and tried to find a trace of emotion to remind her to speak appropriately, but failed. She had to be ambiguous. It's just that I usually see him a lot. After all, he is your right-hand man. I still have to give him face to say hello. Ling Han raised a faint sneer at the corner of his mouth. It's just a secretary. How many do you want? Why bother? A trace of doubt flashed in Shang Anren's eyes. Before she had time to think about it, she saw Ji Xiaoya holding a stack of documents and walking in a hurry with her head down. Thinking of the rumors in the company, her face suddenly turned ugly. That's right. By the way, Han, you still have work to do, so I won't bother you. She pulled her hand out of Ling Han's arm and smiled very cleverly and sensibly. Ling Han nodded slightly and didn't ask much. He went straight into the office. Ji Xiaoya was holding the documents. As soon as she heard the sound, she raised her head and saw Shang Anren, who she always hated, wearing sunglasses and walking towards her. Her insufferably arrogant look was really disgusting. Good morning, Secretary Ji. Shang Anren did not hide the falseness in her smile. Ji Xiaoya shuddered and said coldly, Early in the morning, there's a smell of fox. Shang Anren's face darkened. He was even more certain that Ji Xiaoya had an affair with Ling Han. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Secretary Ji, you have to be careful when you speak. Do you think that your President Ling will like a brash and domineering little girl like you? Ji Xiaoya followed her eyes and looked at her flat chest. She suddenly got angry. You're all grown up. You're a fox. Hearing this, Shang Anren raised her eyelid slightly, looking high and mighty. I don't know how Han likes you when you are so barbaric. Who are you calling barbaric? Ji Xiaoya glared at her and gritted her teeth. She looked like she was about to fight. I'm talking about you. She walked past Ji Xiaoya. As she adjusted her sunglasses, she deliberately raised her elbow and hit her in the chest. Amidst Ji Xiaoya's exclamation, she directly scattered the photocopied documents in her hands all over the floor. You! Stop right there, Xiaoyu. Yi Huanyan came out of the secretary's office and hurriedly grabbed Ji Xiaoya, who looked like she was about to kill someone. What are you doing? That smelly vixen. How dare she deliberately bump into me? While Yi Huanyan was tugging on Ji Xiaoya, her swaying hips had already disappeared from their sight. Yi Huanyan was very pleased with herself. All right, just pick up the things you dropped. I'll help you pick them up. No, Yi Huanyan. Seeing Yi Huanyan squatting down to pick things up, Ji Xiaoya got angry. Looking at Yi Huanyan squatting down to pick things up, she suddenly thought of a scene just now. She questioned, Do you not have a temper? Why did this woman come with Ling Han just now? What exactly happened to you last night? Yi Huanyan paused in the act of picking up the things. She folded the papers and handed them to Ji Xiaoya. Pick them up yourself. I still have something to discuss with Director Ling. Hey. Ji Xiaoya grabbed her arm with concern in her eyes. You have to tell me if there's anything. Don't force yourself. Yi Huanyan had her back to her, and her eyes were slightly red. She hummed in agreement, and then entered the director's office without looking back. Ling Han received a call from Xiao Mu as soon as he arrived at the office. The rectification plan for use in media has been issued. I heard that all the departments are prioritizing promoting senior management from within the department. They are very enthusiastic, and their initial resistance is gone. Yes, there will definitely be some people who are restless. Pay more attention. Understood. On the other end of the phone, Xiao Mu hesitated for a moment before asking. Director Ling, there was a landslide on the Shanglan line last night, and several places collapsed. I heard that many cars traveling at night were in trouble. Secretary Yi, is she okay? Speaking of this, Ling Han recalled seeing the tow truck from the 4S store at the entrance of the residential area this morning to tow away the car with a very familiar license plate number. His face darkened a bit. His tone was cold. She's fine, but your car was sent to the 4S store for repair this morning. Huh. The person on the other end of the phone exclaimed. How come? I'll inform the finance department to deduct the money from your salary. Director Ling, you lent the car yourself, so you have to bear the consequences yourself. Xiao Mu still wanted to say something, but Ling Han had already hung up the phone impatiently. A person who could drive a car into a guardrail dared to drive from Shanghai to Lanjiang in the heavy rain last night? There was a knock on the office door, followed by a familiar voice. Director Ling, come in. Ling Han responded faintly and opened the folder in his hand. This morning, Assistant Li handed over Assistant Xiao's follow-up work to me. After weighing the pros and cons, I think it's more important to complete the contract renewal with Chile Media first. Yi Huanyan took a deep breath. So I've been a bit busy recently. Let's leave the plan of the company's artists and staff to the planning department. I don't think I have the time. Oh. Ling Han looked up, his eyes burning like torches. You don't have the time? Yi Huanyan felt uncomfortable under his gaze, so she lowered her head to avoid his gaze. Yes, about the contract renewal. The contracts of several artists in the company have also expired, and we need to discuss the contract renewal, then put all these things into the plan of the trip. Yi Huanyan looked up abruptly and stared at Ling Han in a daze. You mean we should send them invitations? But the company had a tradition of inviting partners to participate in the trip plan, but these people were usually very busy. When they received the invitation, most of them would ask their secretaries to call back to thank them, and then they would go back to their own work. Very few would actually participate. Don't talk to me about buts. I said that all artists and staff must participate this time. So you must invite these clients and artists who want to renew their contracts. When you work, it will be the same. Twice the effort and half the result. Twice the effort and half the result? Yi Huanyan's face froze. He was clearly making things difficult for her. If you can't do these things, I can ask someone else to do it. I think Secretary Ji has been very free recently. Let me do it. Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and quickly agreed. What I mean is, Secretary Ji will help you complete this task. Ling Han glanced at her with disdain. If you can't even do such a small thing, you don't have to come to work before the end of the year. We will do it. Ever since she came out of the CEO's office, Yi Huanyan's face had been tense. Ling Han knew that Ji Xiaoya's family background was not good. Even though she had such a high salary every month, she sent most of it home. That was why she lived in such an old-fashioned neighborhood with bad security. However, she had a carefree personality and didn't know how to spend money. After sending money home, she spent all the rest. If she lost this job, wouldn't she go hungry? Chapter 90. The photocopies are on your desk, Yen Yen. Ji Xiaoya stuffed a potato chip into her mouth and pointed at Yi Huanyan's desk. Yi Huanyan came back to her senses and responded. She returned to her seat and flipped through 2 pages of messy photocopies. She frowned and said, Xiaoyu, you'll have to complete the group trip with me. No problem. I'm very free anyway. If there's anything to do, just leave it to me. I'll do it. It's not just about the photocopies. I'm afraid you'll have to meet some clients separately with me. Meet clients? Ji Xiaoya was nervous. She suddenly crushed the potato chip in her hand and the crumbs fell to the floor. The corners of her mouth twitched. Yen Yen, are you kidding me? She hated talking to businessmen the most. When she first joined the company's planning department, it was because the planning department only needed to come up with proposals and ideas. It didn't need to have too many personnel disputes like other departments. Yi Huanyan had no choice but to repeat Ling Han's order. She looked at Ji Xiaoya's shocked face and pursed her lips. If I could do it on my own, I wouldn't ask you to do it. After all, he's the one who wants to make things difficult for me. It has nothing to do with you. Ji Xiaoya finally closed her mouth and thought quickly. Wait a minute. He's making things difficult for you. Why is he making things difficult for you again? Didn't you just get along well with each other? Damn it. Last night. Thinking about what happened last night, Yi Huanyan covered her chest and suddenly felt disgusted. She turned around and ran in the direction of the bathroom. Ji Xiaoya was stunned for a few seconds. She threw down the potato chip box and ran after her. Are you okay? She helped to pat Yi Huanyan's back. I'm fine. I just thought about what happened last night and felt a little disgusted. Leaning against the washstand in the bathroom, Yi Huanyan's face flashed with a trace of pain. You may not believe me, but even after seeing what happened last night, I still refuse to give up. Ji Xiaoya frowned. She didn't know what to say. She could only hold her cold hand tightly. It doesn't matter. We are sisters. I will help you. Don't you just want to chase us away? How could it be that easy? Isn't it just a few clients? What's so difficult about settling them? But Ling Han only gave us 3 days to prepare. The planning department needed a month to prepare, but Ling Han only gave her 3 days. It was obvious that he wanted her and Ji Xiaoya to pack up and leave. 3 days. Ji Xiaoya almost bit her tongue. The corners of her mouth twitched. How ruthless. Back in the office, Yi Huanyan flipped open a document on the table and placed it in front of Ji Xiaoya. There are a total of 12 important clients. Besides the 4 who are overseas, we have to invite the remaining 8. Besides these, there are also 19 A-list and B-list artists in the company. Oh my God, those little foxes and those old foxes. I don't want to deal with any of them. Ji Xiaoya hugged her head. She felt that she had encountered the biggest disaster of her life. Do you believe it? I wasn't even this nervous when I took the art exam. Then you think it's harder to get the artists or the clients. You can choose one. You can start working in the afternoon. They're both difficult. How can I not choose? You can also try to find a job before the end of the year. Ji Xiaoya's face stiffened. Don't joke around. Which company would dare to offend Ling Han without a proper reason? If I leave here, I'll be unemployed. I'll choose. I'll choose an artist. I'll choose this Guan Nai. I'll go look for this Guan Nai in the afternoon. Are you sure? Guan Nai is famous for her bad temper. She's a rising star. She even dares to look down on Shang Anren. I know, but I think the others are even harder to deal with. Ji Xiaoya spread her hands. I choose Guan Nai. I'll take this Guan Nai. If I can't get her, I'll take her surname. Yi Huanyan sighed helplessly and handed Guan Nai's information to her. Take a good look. Remember to cater to her interests. In the afternoon, Ji Xiaoya set off to lobby the artists after lunch. Yi Huanyan still had to stay in the secretary's office to deal with the secretary's work. She could only take out the client list and analyze it one by one in her free time. Today, all the departments in the company seemed to have made an appointment. All the documents were sent up at once. Even the financial statements, which had been delayed for several days, were sent up in advance today. When it was time to get off work, Yi Huanyan finished reading the last proposal. She hammered her waist and sent the proposal into the office. Perhaps the knock on the door was too light to be heard inside. She opened the door and saw Ling Han sleeping on the desk. Almost all the documents piled up on the desk had been dealt with. She sighed silently in her heart. Ling Han's extraordinary work efficiency had indeed made her feel powerless. It was not something that an ordinary person could do. She was already having a headache just reviewing the basic data of the documents, and what he needed to see was the question of whether the data was real or not. Ling Han was awakened by the weight on his shoulder. The defense system in his mind automatically activated, and he instantly grabbed a hand on his shoulder. Following Yi Huanyan's cry of surprise, he frowned, and the suit jacket that was half draped over his shoulders fell to the ground beside his feet. He frowned and shook off Yi Huanyan's hand. What are you doing? Yi Huanyan was pushed back a few steps by the force of him shaking off her. She staggered and held onto the corner of the table to stabilize herself. She held her wrist that was hurting and said in pain, "Seeing that you were asleep, I was just afraid that you would catch a cold." Ling Han held his forehead and glanced at her coldly. "You don't have to do such useless things. What did you come in for? The planning department has revised the documents. Just leave them there." His attitude was cold and stiff. Yi Huanyan stood there for a few seconds and walked a few steps before turning back. "Have you not recovered from your cold?" Ling Han's fingers paused on the cover of the document. After a few seconds of silence, his cold voice rang out in the room without any warmth. "Secretary Yi, instead of worrying about my cold, why don't you worry about whether you can make it to the end of the year? A smart person would have already contacted the headhunter company by now." "Oh, right. I've already asked Lingling to pack your things. Since you don't want to go back to the old mansion, I don't want Grandma to worry too much about me. You can go back to where you used to live after work." Yi Huanyan's face sank bit by bit. Her voice trembled. "You want me to leave home?" It was only now that she realized that this time, Ling Han didn't just want to make things difficult for her. He really wanted her to pack her things and leave this place. "Why?" "That's not your home, Secretary Yi. You're just a secretary in the company. In your original home, you're just a burden that Jiang Milin brought along. You have nothing to do with the Ling family. And now, I feel that no matter where I am, I don't want to see you again." "Why?" "I'm tired of it." Ling Han looked up, his deep eyes bottomless. "No matter what it is, I'm tired of your body." Chapter 91. Before she got off work, Yi Huanyan received a call from Ji Xiaoya. She didn't listen to what was said on the other end of the line. After she hung up, she reached out and hailed a cab. "Miss, where are you going?" "Jean Jiang Court." She didn't believe that Ling Han was such a heartless person. When she returned to Ling Han's villa, she looked at the empty room she lived in. Her heart felt empty. Everything that belonged to her had been packed away. Ling Ling looked like she wanted to say something but stopped. After hesitating for a while, she had no choice but to speak. "Miss Yi, when young master left this morning, he said to pack your things and you have to move out." She held onto the door frame and forced a smile. "I know. If you don't mind, I would like to walk around." Young master might come back late today. Why don't you have dinner before you leave?" "I'll go cook now. It's not too late." "It's okay. You should rest. I'll leave in a while." Ling Ling looked at the dejected figure and sighed helplessly. Why did the young master treat Miss Yi like this, with his unpredictable personality? Yi Huanyan knew that Ling Han had made up his mind to let her go this time. He didn't throw a tantrum at her and didn't show any emotions. In his eyes, she could only see disgust. Her hand touched the bed that she had slept on. It was pure white and flawless. New bedsheets had been changed, but why could she still smell the scent of another woman in the air? It made her stomach churn. She held her chest and walked to Ling Han's bedroom. The nausea in her stomach gradually calmed down. Ling Han's room was cold. The walls were dark blue and the sheets were dark gray. It was like a room in the deep sea. She felt stuffy as soon as she entered. She took a deep breath and felt a little better. She didn't dare to stay for too long and turned to leave. From the corner of her eye, she suddenly saw the safe by the bed. It wasn't closed. She frowned and hesitated for a while before deciding to close it for him. Maybe there were some important confidential documents inside. When her fingers touched the door of the safe, her eyes froze. There was only one open black suede box in the cupboard. The lid was turned to one side, revealing a palm-sized piece of white napkin. In the middle of the napkin was a sketch of a blue character drawn with a ballpoint pen. That person had an unnatural smile on his face. His face was a little stiff and angular, and his eyes were dark and bottomless. Although he put on a sullen expression, there was a trace of doting in his eyes. Many years ago, when she was about to take the art examination, Jiang Milan and Ling Dongming were on a business trip and were not at home. She begged him and dragged him to a small restaurant for a meal. "Big brother Ling Han, my teacher said that I'm very talented in drawing, especially sketching people. So you don't have to worry too much about my exams. You're the one who's worried." Of course not. You've already said that sentence 3 times. But it's really what teacher said. My character sketches will definitely pass. The 4th time. Yi Huanyan lowered her head and was a little dejected. Her originally excited expression disappeared. "Okay. To be honest, my teacher said that my character sketches are very bad and I can't capture the charm of the person." Ling Han, who was sitting opposite her in casual clothes, glanced at her indifferently. "So, if you can't pass this year, then you can take the exam next year. What's the big deal? But then I'll have to wait another year." "Wait for what?" "Uncle Ling said that he can marry you after graduation." Facing Ling Han's puzzled gaze, Yi Huanyan covered her mouth. "No, nothing. Do you want me to draw for you? Uncle Ling said that you're very good at drawing." "No." Objection overruled. "Anyway, sit here. I'll be quick." Yi Huanyan giggled and raised her arm. "Boss, lend me a pen." 8 years have passed in a flash. He still keeps a sketch portrait from 8 years ago? Yi Huanyan couldn't believe it. She thought of the photo she found in his office before. She felt that it couldn't be something to humiliate a person. "Ling Han, what are you thinking?" A faded diary at the head of the bed attracted her attention. She frowned, and her fingers involuntarily touched the open book. It was obvious that it had been there for some years. It was a lace design, which didn't seem to belong to a man. Is it a woman's thing? Outside the villa, a red sports car stopped behind the green plants in the distance. Behind the windshield, a delicate face was hidden under the gray fur vest. Sheng Anren frowned and stared at the door of Ling Han's villa. She was more and more confused. Last night was the first time she went to Ling Han's residence. She deliberately wet her clothes because she didn't want to leave. Unexpectedly, there was an unexpected gain. Why are there women's coats and pajamas in Ling Han's house? It's still brand new. The style of the coat is completely the clothes worn by women in the workplace. She came here in the morning and met Ling Han, but she didn't find anything strange. She came again in the afternoon. The woman who had just entered was obviously Ling Han's secretary, Yi Huanyan. She frowned. Wasn't it Ji Xiaoye who had an affair with Ling Han? Yi Huanyan had been in for a while. She couldn't bear it. Her fingers touched the door switch. At this time, a black car slowly drove into the community and stopped at the door of the villa. Ling Han's figure got out of the car, handed over the bag in his hand to the maid who came out to greet him, and then pulled the tie around his neck and walked into the house. Sheng Anren's face was stiff, and she slowly withdrew her fingers. Compared with figuring out the relationship between Yi Huanyan and Ling Han, it's more important not to violate Ling Han's orders. In the living room, Ling Ling put away Ling Han's coat and hesitantly looked upstairs. Ling Han's eyes fell on the high-heeled shoes at the entrance, and his face sank. Yi Huanyan is here? Ling Ling's face was stiff, and she quickly covered it up. Missy seems to have left something here, so she came back to get it. What did she have? Why did she leave it here? Ling Han looked up and saw that the door of the master bedroom was open. A trace of anger climbed up his eyebrows. He pulled off his tie and threw it on the sofa, and strode upstairs. The door of the master bedroom was half open, and the dim light inside faintly came through. Yi Huanyan's vision was getting blurrier and blurrier. She held the edge of the diary and read every word in it over and over again in disbelief. I know the relationship between that woman and Dongming, and I also know that Dongming only is guilt for me. If there is no guilt, I'm afraid there is only boredom, right? In fact, it's very good. I don't intend to make a fuss. Han is back. No matter what, Han is his son. But she asked to meet me. I didn't think that I was so cowardly to let this woman think that I can voluntarily abdicate. It's really ridiculous. Her fingertips rubbed over the two words Han, and her eyes were full of tears. Yi Huanyan had never thought that her mother, a woman who was fierce and resolute but kind and gentle in her bones, would interfere in someone else's family, and even do it so brazenly. Chapter 92. What are you doing? A sullen voice resounded throughout the room. Yi Huanyan's hand trembled, and the diary slipped from her hand. It fell to the ground with a muffled sound. The diary, which was already open, was now in pieces in front of her eyes. As he opened the door, the wind blew through the room, raising pieces of the past that she did not dare to look at directly. That was the naked and cruel truth. It was also the reason why Ling Han's attitude towards her had been so unpredictable for so long. She should have thought of it long ago. She should have thought of it long ago. She should have thought of why he always liked to compare her to herself even after Jiang Milan had passed away for so long. She had heard such words countless times and should have thought of it long ago. The figure at the door walked to the bed and stared at her coldly. Her face stiffened, and the tears in her eyes fell like pearls from a broken string. She hurriedly avoided his gaze and squatted down to pick up the scattered pieces of paper. She was incoherent and humble. I'm sorry, I'll pick them up. I'll pick them up now. She was sorry. She was the one who had let him down. It turned out that she was really the one who had let him down. There's no need. I think if my mother was still alive, she wouldn't want you to touch her things. Yi Huanyan's fingers paused slightly, and she said mechanically, I'm sorry. You've read the diary, haven't you? The voice from above her head was cold. The condescending attitude was very arrogant, but it was so natural. She squatted on the ground. Her legs and feet were numb, and her nerves seemed to have become sluggish. She seemed to be able to feel the blood in her body coagulating bit by bit. Her heart was beating very slowly, and her vision was blurry. She seemed to be unable to make a sound from her throat. "Since you know, hurry up and get lost." She gripped the yellowed paper in her hand tightly. Under such circumstances, she realized that there was still a trace of unwillingness in her heart. Her voice trembled. "You're treating me like this because my mother interfered in the marriage between Uncle Ling and your mother?" A trace of gloominess flashed across Ling Han's brows. "Don't forget, you asked for it that night. I can apologize on behalf of my mother, but that's the matter of the previous generation. What does it have to do with us?" Yi Huanyan held the diary and forced herself to raise her head, as if this was the only way she could convince herself. "My mom said that we have to look forward. I'm very sorry about this, but no buts. Just leave. I don't want to see you again." Ling Han interrupted her and said impatiently, "I'm not interested in you. You've already repaid what you deserve. But you still have the sketch I drew for you, the one from 8 years ago. You still have my photo. Ling Han, do you dare to say that you don't have me in your heart?" Yi Huanyan held the napkin in her other hand. She was unwilling to accept this. She knew that Ling Han had her in his heart. Even if Jiang Milan was a mistress back then, even if her mother had interfered in this man's family, she had already suffered on behalf of her mother. Now, did he want her to leave? She couldn't. Ever since she was young, Jiang Milan had taught her to reflect on herself and not take responsibility for other people's mistakes. That was the behavior of a saint, and it would only make her unhappy for the rest of her life. Ling Han's gaze froze on the sketch. The wind howled outside the window, and there seemed to be a storm in his eyes. The piece of paper was torn to pieces in front of Yi Huanyan's eyes, just like the photo. "It's just a piece of paper. How much weight do you think it has? Yi Huanyan, you think too highly of yourself." Upon hearing this, she heaved a sigh of relief as she looked at the pieces of paper flying in the air. She was terrifyingly calm. "Go ahead and tear it. I know you have me in your heart. So what if you tear it to pieces? I'm not leaving. I don't care if you want me to stay to atone for my mother's sins or torture me. I'm not leaving. Even if your mother is still alive, she definitely doesn't want you to be troubled by their matters." Ling Han's eyes gradually turned red. He lifted up the cold and scary woman on the carpet and held her so tightly that she almost couldn't breathe. "You want to atone for Jiang Milan's sins? What do you mean by that? How much do you know?" Yi Huanyan's face gradually turned green, but she gritted her teeth and refused to say a word. "Since you feel that these mistakes can only fall on me, no matter what it is, I'm willing to accept it." Her body flew through the air, and under his enormous strength, she fell onto the bed. It did not hurt, but her internal organs were knocked to the point that she almost suffocated. She gritted her teeth in pain, unwilling to let out a weak cry of alarm, and this action angered Ling Han. "Who do you think you are? Other than making love to me in bed, what else can you accept?" His breathing was very heavy, and it swept across his neck, leaving behind a shiver. Both of their chests rose and fell violently. As they rose and fell, they were pressed together, then separated and pressed together again. Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and gripped the blanket under her. Every word was very clear in the dark night. "Whatever. As long as you want it, I'll give it to you. I'll even give you my life." Ling Han stared at her coldly. His red eyes were filled with anger. It was in this anger that his gaze swept across the bed under him. He suddenly sneered and leaned down to whisper in her ear. Then, under her terrified and shocked gaze, a pair of hands tore open her shirt mercilessly. In the mess in the room, in the long-accumulated resentment, in her messy cries, he wanted her ruthlessly again and again, until her entire body went limp, until her moans drowned out the howling wind outside the window, until her tears dried up and even her breathing could affect the pain all over her body. The wave-like pain gradually numbed her senses. She lay on the bed like a broken doll, looking at the man beside the bed in fear. His shoulders were very wide, as if they could support her world, but his shoulders were not her home. Her mind replayed the scene of him panting softly in her ear before the storm. Jiang Milan couldn't wait to take you over. So she couldn't even wait for the last month of my mother's cancer. She created a car accident and deceived everyone. She laid on my mother's bed. Wouldn't she have nightmares? She stared at him in a daze, not daring to believe what she had heard. You don't believe me? This bed belongs to my mother. Every night when I lie down, I remember that the marriage that was interrupted is not just a grudge between the previous generation. It is a stain that was caused by Jiang Milan and Ling Dongming. Even if you don't know about it, it is still a stain that can't be washed away from you. Her expression was numb, and her grip on the blanket gradually loosened. There was no fluctuation in her tone, as if she was asking a question, but also as if she was just stating a statement. Just because I'm Jiang Milan's daughter, Jiang Milan is the murderer who killed my mother. Ling Han slowly turned his head, looking terrifyingly calm. Since you're so unwilling to leave, then stay. This bed will be yours from now on. Her fingers touched the bedsheets, and her body trembled for no reason. She was suddenly awakened, as if there were thorns on the bed. She suddenly turned over and fell off the bed, shrinking into a corner. Chapter 93. How scary was the truth? She would rather not know anything. How deep was the gap that she thought she could cross? She would rather not have tested it. The night was really cold. Are you scared? Then get out of here and never appear in front of me again. When she ran out of the villa with her coat wrapped around her, it started to rain. It was a cold winter night rain, and it fell on her face, body, and everywhere. The taxi slowly drove by. The window rolled down, revealing Ji Xiaoya's face. Yan Yan, sir, please stop the car. Yan Yan, what's wrong with you? Ji Xiaoya looked at the villa in the distance anxiously and angrily. In the end, she decided to take care of Yi Huanyan first. She pulled the car door and ordered, "Sir, please go to the nearest hospital." The yellow taxi disappeared at the entrance of the neighborhood. This scene fell into the red sports car. Behind the windshield, the pair of eyes under the large sunglasses could be seen. Apart from the anger, there was a trace of doubt on her face. She flipped the cover of her phone and dialed a familiar number. "Let me ask you something. Where do the two secretaries of Ling Han live? I just saw Secretary Yi come out of Ling Han's house. The two of them? It's so late. Get the documents?" Sheng Anren muttered doubtfully and frowned at the phone. "Don't lie to me. I trust you so much." In the hospital, Yi Huanyan had a low fever. She kept murmuring in a coma. It's my fault, don't go. I'm sorry. Ji Xiaoya frowned and looked at the pale face on the hospital bed. She took the test report and went to the attending doctor's office. Her lower body is severely torn and there are bruises all over her body. In the attending doctor's office, the doctor looked at Ji Xiaoya with a frown and pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose. "These don't look like lacerations caused by one night. Is it the same person? What's going on? What's your relationship with the patient?" I'm her good friend." Ji Xiaoya's expression was very ugly. She didn't need to think to know who was behind this. This man was really crazy. She stammered in front of the doctor for a long time, but she couldn't say anything. In the end, the doctor became anxious and slammed the table. "If you don't explain it clearly, it's not easy for me to do it. Over here, you're not a prostitution organization, right? I see that this girl is very young. I'm going to call the police and let the Women and Children's Union take care of this matter. I don't believe it. Isn't this taking human life as a joke?" Ji Xiaoya's heart tightened. She had no choice but to clench her teeth and squeeze out a tear. "Dr. Lee, my friend's brain isn't very good. She has a boyfriend who has a special hobby. I tried to persuade her to break up with him, but she wouldn't listen. This kind of thing isn't easy to say. You know it too. This time, she went overboard." It's really just a simple relationship with a person, not with Aya. That kind of thing has too many tricks. It's easy to get hurt, such as it was somewhat difficult for her to say this kind of thing, but she was very enthusiastic about talking nonsense and slandering Ling Han. The doctor couldn't listen to her anymore and broke out in a cold sweat. Knock, knock, knock. He was saved by a knock on the door. Come in, Director Li. The family of the patient in bed 2 is here. Do you want to see them? Dr. Li frowned and glanced at Ji Xiaoye. Forget it, forget it. You reminded him to be careful. It's not a joke to kill someone. I'm not going. It's so bad. You young people are really bad nowadays. Ji Xiaoye smiled embarrassedly. She was puzzled. What family member? Thinking of the only person who could be regarded as Yi Huanyan's family member now, she was furious. With a gloomy face, she walked toward the ward in a threatening manner. There were a few nurses gathered outside the ward, chattering nonstop. That man is so tall and has a good figure. How can he be a beast? Haven't you heard of a beast in human clothing? I see that he's wearing a mask tightly. He might be very ugly. Get out of my way. The group of nurses at the door scattered in shock. Ji Xiaoye took a deep breath and pushed open the door. She shouted at the back of the man in front of the bed. You bastard, I'm not going to fight with you today. The man turned his head, only revealing a pair of dark eyes with light eye makeup. A few strands of dark blue hair spilled out from under the cap, exuding a faint blue light under the ward's light. Obviously, he wasn't Ling Han. Ji Xiaoye stopped abruptly and stared at the man's eyes for a few seconds. Then, she covered her mouth and exclaimed, Sun Yanhua, why are you here? Shoo. Sun Yanhua raised his finger and glanced behind her. Ji Xiaoye immediately understood and turned to open the door. What are you looking at? What's wrong with your hospital? How can you crowd around a patient like this? I'm going to file a complaint. Her words scared the rest of the nurses and made them run away. After shooing the group of people away, she pulled the curtain of the visitation window and covered the single ward tightly. Sun Yanhua's delicate voice sounded in the room. Why is she hospitalized? Is she having a fever? I guess so. It's not very serious. She should be fine tomorrow or the day after. Ji Xiaoye pulled a chair and sat on the other side of the bed, distancing herself from Sun Yanhua. Yi Huanyan had told her not to get too close to him. This was in front of her. She was still unconscious. She couldn't be too excited, right? Even though she was really excited. I just finished my work and called her. The nurse picked up the phone and found out that she was hospitalized. At this moment, Sun Yanhua had already taken off his mask, revealing a face that hadn't had time to remove his makeup. He was probably afraid of being discovered, so he didn't dare to take off his mask. The heater in the ward was on and it was very hot, so at this moment, his cheeks were beaded with sweat. He looked at Ji Xiaoye hesitantly. She should have told you that we've known each other for a long time, right? Ji Xiaoye was slightly stunned. She recalled that at the entrance of the company last time, a certain someone had stammered to cover up the matter. She blinked and said, yes, she did, but she didn't say too much. I guess you know. He sighed. Xiaoyu, I did ask you out for a meal to get close to her. I apologize. Ji Xiaoye pursed her lips. I knew that a pie in the sky wouldn't fall on my head for no reason. Sun Yanhua's eyes were a little apologetic. I'm really sorry, but it's not easy to get the chance to take advantage of your best friend. Ji Xiaoye grinned. I forgive you. Sun Yanhua was slightly stunned and seemed a little surprised. But as compensation, you have to tell me how you and Yen know each other. Don't you know? Yen only said a little. I want to know more, can't I? Sigh, I won't tell anyone. I'm Yan's best friend. Don't you believe that I can keep a secret? That's not what I meant. Sun Yanhua's face stiffened. I know that you're her best friend. Then tell me, if you still want to pretend to be her family member and accompany her here. Is this a threat? Yes. Do you accept it? Ji Xiaoye raised her eyebrows and looked sly. I can only accept it. Sun Yanhua looked at Ji Xiaoye helplessly. He thought about the past, and then looked at the person on the hospital bed. He was somewhat depressed. Chapter 94. In the Hospital Ward. Su Nianhua continued to talk about the events from 10 years ago. 10 years was too long, so he couldn't remember everything clearly. However, with such a slow recollection, the past slowly came back to him bit by bit. He was shocked to realize that he could still remember the first time they met. Yi Huanyan had a ponytail, and the hair tie was black with 2 cute orange balls tied to the ends. Ji Xiaoya looked like a fangirl watching an idol interview live. She covered her face and sighed. Oh my God, my idol is my best friend's first love? This is too bizarre. Su Nianhua lowered his head and forced a smile. Now that the story is over, can I ask you a few questions? Go ahead, go ahead. How is she doing now? The girl on the hospital bed was so pale that no blood could be seen on her face. Even though she was asleep, she would struggle in her sleep from time to time. Previously, when he heard that her mother had passed away 2 years ago in Shanghai, he went back and thought about it a lot. In this world, she probably didn't have any relatives. Ji Xiaoya scratched her head and avoided Su Nianhua's gaze. She's doing okay. She doesn't have to worry about food and clothes. She's the CEO's secretary in the top film and television company in the country. Her annual salary is in the millions, so she's doing pretty well. After saying this, Ji Xiaoya felt a little guilty and felt more and more uncomfortable. She gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, other than her relationship problems, she's really blessed by the heavens. Relationship? Su Nianhua turned around and looked at her. You mean, she has a boyfriend? I don't think so. Ji Xiaoya didn't know how to explain this, so her brows were deeply furrowed. I can't say much about this kind of thing. If there's a chance, wait until Yan wakes up. Ask her yourself. Su Nianhua's gaze fell on Yi Huanyan's face again. He was already feeling guilty, but now he was blaming himself even more. Even if Ji Xiaoya didn't say anything, it was obvious that her boyfriend didn't treat her well. Otherwise, why would he let her lie here alone? If they hadn't broken up back then, they would be doing very well now. Ji Xiaoya felt for her vibrating cell phone. After looking at the caller ID, she frowned and glanced at Su Nianhua. You and Yan can be alone for a while. I'm going out to take this call. It was a call from Ling Han. Ji Xiaoya walked to the entrance of the corridor. After confirming that no one was watching, she pressed the answer button and asked in annoyance. Chief Ling, what business do you have in the middle of the night? Where's Yi Huanyan? A cold voice came from the other end of the phone. As soon as she heard this voice, Ji Xiaoya couldn't suppress the anger in her heart. She jumped up and shouted at the top of her voice, shouldn't you be the one who knows best where she is? Why are you asking me now? Ling Han, can you be a little more conscientious? Yan likes you so much. Don't you know in your heart that Yan likes you so much? Why do you have to hurt her again and again? 2 days ago, I thought you had already thought it through. What's wrong with you now? You. The other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds. Come to me at work tomorrow to get a letter of recommendation. After you come back from the company trip, go to the personnel office to go through the resignation procedures. Resign. Before Ji Xiaoya could finish speaking, the phone call was hung up. F***CK, what letter of recommendation? You want to fire me? Do you think I'm afraid of you? I have hands and feet, so can I find a job on my own? I don't need your pity even if I beg for food. The next morning, Ji Xiaoya stood hesitantly in front of Ling Han's desk with 2 letters of recommendation in her hands. She couldn't believe it. President Ling, are you really going to recommend Yan and me to Fengshang? Fengshang was the most famous fashion magazine in China. Almost every artist was proud of being on the cover of Fengshang. As long as they were on Fengshang, almost all of them could get a high-end brand endorsement within a year, because Fengshang itself was a symbol of a big brand. The annual salary and position will be the same as now. If you have other requirements, you can also mention it to their editor-in-chief. But whether you can do it or not depends on you. Ji Xiaoya looked at the letter of recommendation in her hands with almost shining eyes. It was not just the benefits of the position and annual salary. Fengshang was such a big brand magazine. High heels, branded bags, perfume, lipstick, skincare. It was simply a paradise for girls. Her eyes swept over Ling Han's cold face, and she instantly sobered up. She coughed dryly and said, "President Ling, it's not that I don't want to work in your company. I actually think it's quite good to work under you." Good my ass. She couldn't wait to leave. If it wasn't for the sake of money, who could bear to see her best friend being destroyed every day? She didn't even have the mood to eat potato chips. If there's nothing else, you can leave. Also, remember to transfer the travel plan to the second planning department before you leave. Ling Han's indifference was within her expectations. She secretly rolled her eyes, and before she left, she asked a question. This letter of recommendation, don't you plan to give it to Yen Yen yourself? Ling Han's indifferent expression seemed to have loosened. After a while, he said coldly, "No need. If she had a little self-awareness, she wouldn't have come to see me again." Ji Xiaoya frowned and looked at Ling Han in confusion. What exactly happened last night? How could the two of them fight like this? Although she thought about it, she didn't have the courage to ask. When Yi Huanyan woke up in the hospital, it was already afternoon. The nurse pulled out the 4 drip for her, and the pain on the back of her hand woke her up with a start. "Miss Yi, you're awake?" The nurse put away the 4 drip and smiled. "This is the hospital. Isn't it the hospital? Your friend sent you here. Last night, your boyfriend also came and stayed with you the whole night. Oh right, before he left this morning. He told me to tell you to rest well. The company has already taken leave, so you don't have to rush to work." Yi Huanyan was stunned. Did Ling Han come? After the nurse left, she tried to sit up on the bed. A tearing pain in her lower body made her gasp. Large beads of cold sweat appeared on her forehead. She held the edge of the bed for a long time before she could regain her senses. Last night, the phone beside the bed rang and interrupted her painful memories. Ji Xiaoya's chattering voice came from the phone. She seemed to have received some good news and was jumping for joy. "I knew you were awake. Wait for me. I bought food for you and brought it to the hospital. I have good news for you." "Oh right, what do you want to eat?" Yi Huanyan pulled the corners of her mouth and forced a bitter smile. "Anything will do. Anything light will do." Her weak body made her uninterested in anything, but she couldn't bear to reject Ji Xiaoya's kindness. "How about this? You haven't recovered yet. I'll go and see if there's anything that can help you recover. I'll buy some for you. Okay." After hanging up the phone, the ward fell into silence. It was evening. The light of the setting sun outside the window bloomed little by little. You thought it was blooming, you thought it was very dazzling, but you didn't know that after this short moment of light, it was a chaotic night. Chapter 95. As soon as the sun went down, Ji Xiaoya appeared at the door of the ward with a thermos. She was wrapped tightly in a beige coat and a gray scarf. As soon as she entered the room, she brought a gust of cold wind. She unwrapped the scarf and stomped her feet in front of the bed. Damn the weather. It was above 0 yesterday, but after the rain, it dropped a few degrees. I'm freezing. Didn't you take a taxi? I don't have money, so I took the bus. I spent all my savings for this month to get you admitted to the hospital last night. You have to pay me back as soon as you're discharged. Otherwise, I'll really have to eat. The bank card is in my bag. You can take it yourself. Yi Huanyan's face was pale, and her voice was very weak. I won't tease you anymore. I don't have that much money. I took the bank card from your bag last night. The password hasn't been changed for so many years. I have a conscience. Other people would have taken your money away. Ji Xiaoya rubbed her hands and opened the thermos. She giggled. Let's not talk about this. I brought you fish soup. Drink it while it's hot. Yi Huanyan forced a smile and drank 2 mouthfuls of soup from Ji Xiaoya's hand. You didn't make it yourself, right? After drinking it, she felt a warmth in her lower abdomen. The faint smell of the medicine box in the soup spread in the ward. I asked the housekeeper to help me. Ji Xiaoye stuffed the thermos into Yi Huanyan's hand and guiltily avoided her eyes. Drink it yourself. Yi Huanyan didn't suspect anything. She held the spoon and slowly drank the soup. The taste of the soup was quite familiar. She didn't have much appetite, but after drinking 2 mouthfuls, she felt quite comfortable. Ji Xiaoye tilted her head and took something out of her bag. She couldn't help but think of the inexplicable scene before she got off work. Before she got off work, Ling Han called her to the office and magically brought out a thermos. His tone was very stiff as he asked her to bring it to the hospital. To be honest, she really couldn't understand what Ling Han was thinking. For example, he clearly wanted to show goodwill, but he coldly warned her not to tell Yi Huanyan that he prepared the soup. Why? You didn't poison the soup, did you? Ji Xiaoye couldn't hold back and exposed her inner thoughts. Ling Han glanced at her coldly. His tone was a little gloomy. If you want her to drink it and recover as soon as possible, and if you want her to leave Pleasure Group and not care about any self-righteous old feelings between us, then don't say anything. It was also Ling Han's words that made her hold back. Just as she took out the 2 recommendation letters, Ji Xiaoye looked at Yi Huanyan and saw that she didn't look too bad. She took them out and said, "Yan Yan, I have good news for you." "All right, go ahead. You know Fengsha magazine, right?" When we were in college, all the students in the Academy of Arts racked their brains to get into it. Yes, I know. They started to cooperate with our company last year. Every year, they regularly shoot a collective cover for the company's artists. At the beginning of last year, Sheng Anren was on their cover. When Sheng Anren was mentioned, Yi Huanyan's face changed slightly. She seemed to be a little disgusted, and there was obviously a trace of forbearance on her face. Ji Xiaoye wasn't in the mood to hear anything wrong from her words. Her mind was full of how to persuade this woman, who was only devoted to Ling Han, to take the initiative to quit her job and run to a better future with her. Now, there's an opportunity. Let's work at Fengshan together. What do you think? She said casually, and Yi Huanyan didn't take it seriously. She drank a mouthful of fish soup and said lightly, "What do you mean? It's not like I don't have a job." "What if you don't have a job?" Ji Xiaoye suddenly became serious. "Don't forget that the travel plan can't be completed according to the company's requirements. Ling Han wants the 2 of us to quit. The military order has been made. What if it doesn't succeed?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked at Ji Xiaoye suspiciously. "What are you trying to say?" She suddenly mentioned Fengshan, suddenly talked about quitting, and suddenly beat around the bush. Ji Xiaoye frowned and took out 2 recommendation letters in her hand. "These are the recommendation letters from Fengshan. The 2 of us can take these directly to Fengshan's editor-in-chief, and we can be hired directly. The annual salary of the position is the same as that of Fengshan, and we can do the things we like. Think about it, those bags, perfume, shoes, we deal with these every day. How many women dream of Xiaoyu?" Yi Huanyan suddenly put the thermos of fish soup on the table. Her face was stiff. "Where did these recommendation letters come from? Why do we have to leave?" "Yan Yan." Ji Xiaoye saw that she didn't look good, so she quickly explained, "Isn't it better to start over in another place? Xiaoyu, we haven't failed yet. The deadline hasn't arrived yet. How do you know we can't complete it?" Her anxious tone made it sound as if she had been betrayed. "Did you meet with a setback at Guannai's place?" "It's okay. I'll talk to her." Ji Xiaoye looked at her and frowned even more. "Ling Han gave them to me." She interrupted Yi Huanyan's hopeful blueprint prospects. Her words cut off the last trace of hope she had. "It was Ling Han who asked us to leave, not me. No matter how hard you work, it's useless. The boss doesn't appreciate you or even hates you. He wants you to leave as soon as possible. This has nothing to do with your ability. It has to do with you as a person. Yi Huanyan, do you understand?" The subtext behind those words was written all over Ji Xiaoye's face. There was a trace of pity in her eyes. This kind of pity made Yi Huanyan's heart gradually turn cold. The color on her face, which had instantly improved because of her anxiety, disappeared bit by bit. She stared blankly at Ji Xiaoya, her eyes dim. Yen, start over in another place. Although I don't know what exactly happened between the two of you last night, it's pretty much the same as before. What kind of life have you had for the past half a year? How much longer are you going to humiliate yourself? Do you owe him? Do you owe him? Yi Huanyan? She slowly lowered her head. Her fingers touched the recommendation letter on the table. Her voice was a little choked. Xiaoyu, it seems like I really do owe him. Ji Xiaoya cried out in alarm. She watched as the recommendation letter was torn into pieces in Yi Huanyan's hands. The pieces scattered on the snow-white bedsheets like butterflies fluttering in the wind. They lost their lives and fell to the ground one after another. What are you doing? She grabbed her hand, but it was too late. Xiaoyu, Fengshan is a place that you like. If you want to go, you can go. I can't go. You're still thinking about him? You still like him? Are you crazy? Ji Xiaoya's face was filled with anger and disbelief. She was so angry that her head was about to explode from her disappointing best friend. Just take it that I'm crazy. I want to be discharged. Hey, what are you doing? There's not much time. I have to talk to those clients and artists. Talk to your sister. Can you even go out in your current condition? Ji Xiaoya held her forehead with a speechless expression. Yi Huanyan, sit down. I have a piece of news. Do you want to hear it? It's about the company's plans. Chapter 96. Ji Xiaoya was so angry that she glared at her with her big eyes. I really have to hand it to you. The company's travel plan was originally a matter for the planning department. Ji Xiaoya had been working in the planning department when she first joined the company, so she knew a little about it. That day, when she went to look for Guanai, she had randomly picked an artist to test the waters. After using all kinds of methods, she finally found a common pattern among artists. Don't you know what they like? She sighed. I called you yesterday afternoon to talk about this, but when you picked up the phone, you were incoherent. I felt that something was wrong, so I called a cab to look for you. In the end, you ran out of your house and didn't say anything. Yi Huanyan looked confused. Of course I know what you're talking about. That's why I've been spending the past few days figuring out what those people like. That's so inefficient. Ji Xiaoya interrupted her explanation mercilessly. Have you ever thought about the relationship between our clients and our artists? Such a hint was already very obvious. Yi Huanyan frowned. You mean to let them, the company's clients, were all rich businessmen. Among them, there was no lack of rich second and third generations who held shares in their families. These people liked to go to places with beautiful women the most. For example, nightclubs were always full of different levels of quality. However, it was different for artist gatherings. To be able to survive in this industry, looks were the most important thing. From the perspective of female artists, they naturally hoped to marry into a rich family. No matter how good they were in the entertainment industry and how successful their careers were, it was naturally not as good as marrying into a good family. She had actually thought about this before, but she only thought that it would be easier to persuade the clients. She didn't think of hinting that the artists would have clients. I understand. Thank you, Xiaoyu. She lifted the blanket and looked like she was in a hurry to leave. Hey, I've already told you the idea. Where do you want to go? I have to confirm the list of people and book the tickets tomorrow night. I don't have time. Damn you, sit down. Ji Xiaoya was furious. Did I say that I wouldn't help you? Yi Huanyan was stunned by her roar. I haven't resigned yet. I'll help you with these things. I promise that the list will be finalized by tomorrow night. I'll also book the flight tickets, hotel, and rental of the amusement park over there for you. Okay? Xiaoyu, you don't have to thank me. Seeing that Ling Han recommended me to Feng Shang, this is the last thing I can do for him before I leave. Once this is over, Yen, take care of yourself. Ji Xiaoya's expression was a little gloomy, and her tone was much more serious than usual. Yi Huanyan also realized that she was really angry. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. Xiaoyu, Ji Xiaoya felt terrible in her heart. She thought about how they had spent so many years together. She didn't know how long these days would last. Suddenly, she had to pack up and leave. Thinking of this, she couldn't control her tears. You rest. Drink the fish soup. I'm going out for a walk. Looking at Ji Xiaoya's back, Yi Huanyan gripped the bedsheets and choked up. She knew why Ji Xiaoya was sad and angry. The position of Huan Yu's CEO's secretary was not suitable for her. Even though she laughed every day and said that she was an idle person who was flaunting her high salary in the company, she knew better than anyone that that idle job was actually a form of oppression for Ji Xiaoya. People had to show their value in life. The position that Ling Han gave to Ji Xiaoya didn't show her any value other than letting her eat, drink, and play. She was not happy. So when the pie of Fengshang fell on her head, she accepted it without hesitation. She really hoped that she would leave with her and leave that depressing secretarial office. It sounded like a good future, but Yi Huanyan couldn't accept it. Last night she had a dream. In the dream, she asked Jiang Milan why she did such a thing. She interfered in someone else's marriage. She even didn't hesitate to go against a terminally ill woman. She even dared to hire a murderer, something that she didn't even dare to think about. In the dream, Jiang Milan's figure was a little blurry, but her voice was very clear. Yen, I don't want you to suffer. You don't deserve to live like that. She had heard Jiang Milan say such words many times. After waking up, she sat by the bed and thought for a long time. Thinking back to the number of times she had heard these words, she didn't realize that she had heard these words many times. When Jiang Milan spent money to let her go to the best high school in Lanjiang City, when she first met Lu Shun in high school, when Jiang Milan took her to eat the expensive but delicious Western food next to the school for the first time, when Lu Shun's mother humiliated Jiang Milan when she saw her, and when Lu Shun went abroad. That evening, the plane flew over Lanjiang City. After she skipped class, she hugged her broken piggy bank and lay on the bed, crying until she lost consciousness. Jiang Milan received a call from the school and rushed home. She knocked open the door and hugged her in her arms with a guilty look on her face. Yen, I won't let you suffer in the future. I'll give you the life you deserve. Don't cry. Although she never understood what the life she deserved was, Jiang Milan used practical actions to tell her what kind of life she deserved. There were people to send her to and from school. She lived in a 3-story villa and had 4 nannies around her. She didn't even have to wear her own clothes. Regardless of her grades, her family had ways to let her go to the school she liked. When she was in university, she never had to worry about her bank balance being insufficient. These were the lives that Jiang Milan brought to her in the next few years. Therefore, she couldn't say that Jiang Milan had nothing to do with her. If it wasn't for those words, if it wasn't for a better life, if it wasn't for her, she believed that Jiang Milan wouldn't do that. Therefore, she had let down Ling Han's mother and Ling Han. Therefore, even if she had to leave pleasure, she had to leave with dignity. At the very least, she would help him get what he wanted. It could be considered as repaying her mother's debt. Then, she would leave on her own, without anyone's recommendation letter. During this period, no matter how Ling Han humiliated her, she was willing to accept it. Everyone has something that they have to bear. After you accept it, you won't feel so uncomfortable. She comforted herself and repeated it in her heart over and over again. However, when Ji Xiaoya returned from outside, her eyes were red and she still felt extremely wronged. She leaned into Ji Xiaoya's arms and cried loudly, just like that evening 10 years ago. Chapter 97. Yi Huanyan rested in the hospital for 3 days. During these 3 days, Ji Xiaoya used the professional skills that she had accumulated over the past 3 years to deal with the matters that the entire planning department was helpless against. 3 days later, she printed out the flight information in a document, planned out the list of each artist's entourage, and booked the hotel. Then, she handed it all to Yi Huanyan. Yi Huanyan took the document, which was the first time she had enjoyed other people's work since she started working, and walked into Ling Han's office with her head held high. President Ling, these are the documents from several departments today. I need you to take a look at them. Okay, put them there. Ling Han did not look up. His tone was a little indifferent. Since you're going to leave these things to the newcomers. Otherwise, the newcomers won't be able to familiarize themselves with the business as soon as possible. I'm going to suspect that you have ulterior motives. Yi Huanyan did not refute. She just looked at him indifferently. President Ling is right. All right, this is the approval for the project budget for this trip. The amount exceeds the department manager's approval authority, so it needs your signature. Okay. Ling Han frowned. The company's trip plan? You're done? Yes. Yi Huanyan smiled slightly. Ling Han's face flashed a strange look. When he signed, he sneered. No one can say for sure whether the clients and artists will all be there. Yi Huanyan's expression froze. She said indifferently, as long as President Ling doesn't interfere, I don't think anything unexpected will happen. Anyway, you don't plan to stay at pleasure. Why do you have to be so pretentious? You have to finish what you started. This is what Uncle Ling taught me. At the mention of Ling Dongming, Ling Han's face darkened. He emitted a gloomy aura. The document in his hand was thrown directly in Yi Huanyan's direction. It hit the ground with a harsh sound. You're done signing. Take away. Thank you, President Ling. Yi Huanyan's back was tall and straight, with a hint of stubbornness. Ling Han gradually frowned. After experiencing such a night, this woman still dared to appear in front of him and spout nonsense. She was really reckless. Walking out of Ling Han's office, Yi Huanyan inexplicably heaved a sigh of relief. Everything was laid out in front of her. Although it was shocking and cruel, it was better than being humiliated without knowing anything. Ji Xiaoya stood at the entrance of the secretary's office. She held her suitcase in her hands and forced a smile. Have you packed everything? Yes. It's rare for so many people to go on a trip in the company. Why don't you stay and go on a trip at the end of the month? I don't think so. I don't dare to take money in this position. If I take advantage of this opportunity to go out and have fun, I'm afraid my reputation in the industry will be in a mess when I come back. You care about the reviews too? Of course I care. I'm going to be a member of Fengshang in the future. Come and see me when you have time. At this point, Yi Huanyan couldn't help but feel a trace of sadness in her heart. Why do you make it sound like you're going to part forever? Hearing this, Ji Xiaoya sniffled and choked with sobs. I'm afraid that if I leave here, you'll be tortured to death by someone. Yi Huanyan's nose twitched and her eyes turned red. Shall you? Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. I have to report to Fengshang in the afternoon. I haven't gone through the procedures with the HR department. I'm leaving. After saying this, Ji Xiaoya turned her head and hid her tears in a place where Yi Huanyan couldn't see. They fell into the suitcase in her hands, and she walked toward the elevator. Standing at the entrance of the secretary's office, Yi Huanyan looked at the back of her best friend. For a moment, she was absent-minded. Fengshang was famous for being busy. They didn't even have time to rest on weekends. In the future, they would definitely have fewer chances to see each other. She didn't know if the people there would bully her. After all, this girl's taste in clothes wasn't that good. Her phone suddenly rang with the sound of an incoming message. She came back to her senses and took out her phone from her pocket. Yen, take care of your body. Remember to eat. Since you've decided to stay, you must remember that your body is your capital. Although I really don't like a bastard like Ling Han who doesn't mean what he says, I also believe that he has feelings for you. So, you have to work hard. Oh, right, he was the one who asked me to send the chicken soup to the hospital. I hope this news can give you some comfort. Ji Xiaoya had thought about this message for a long time before sending it. In fact, according to her selfish desires, she couldn't wait for Yi Huanyan to realize that Ling Han was an inhumane person in an instant. Then, she would immediately leave this sad place of pleasure. But from Yi Huanyan's perspective, she thought about it for a long time. Loving someone was just that unreasonable. Even if you were good or bad, beautiful or ugly, the only thing she wanted in her heart was for the person she loved to love her back. During this period of time without her company, perhaps the only thing she could rely on was Ling Han's insignificant and pitiful care for her. He was her only pillar of support. When she walked out of pleasure, Ji Xiaoye took out her phone and glanced at it. "Thank you, Xiaoyu. I don't think I'll give up. When I do, I'll leave without you persuading me." Looking at this message, Ji Xiaoye sighed helplessly. Then she looked up at the sky. She sincerely hoped that one day her best friend would be able to walk out of the cage in her heart. A week later, it was Pleasure Group's employee benefits and customer feedback holiday. The day before departure, Yi Huanyan brought the company's employee list to the president's office for signature. Then, she handed it over to the finance department for reimbursement. When it was time for signature, Ling Han flipped to the section about the president's assistant team, but it was blank. Qiao Mu was busy with her company in Shanghai and did not have time to participate. Ji Xiaoye had just left, and Yi Huanyan, who was supposed to appear on the list, was not there either. The new secretary had not officially taken office yet. As for the other two male assistants in charge of assistant affairs, they were busy with their own things. "Where are the people in the assistant team?" he asked. "Assistant Xiao can't come. Secretary Ji just left, and the new person hasn't been hired yet. Assistant Xiao's two assistants also have work to do, so they can't go. What about you? Do you have something to do?" Ling Han's gaze was a bit cold. Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. "I'm not feeling well, so I won't go." Before she finished speaking, she saw that Ling Han's expression was not very good, so she quickly explained. "I heard that Sheng Anren is accompanying you. Miss Sheng should be able to take care of your affairs, so I don't think I need to go. I'm going out to play. I don't think President Ling wants to see me. Go out to play." Ling Han sneered. "What about the client's contract renewal? I seem to have said that your work is included in the travel plan this time. You're not going out to play." Yi Huanyan's face froze. She had a sliver of hope that he would forget about what he had said before, but she did not expect that she had underestimated his memory and his desire for revenge against her. There were two clients in the travel plan. They were the two big clients that she needed to negotiate with after taking over Qiao Mu's job. She did not want to refuse, but Sheng Anren was also going on this trip. Yi Huanyan felt that she did not have the ability to calmly face Ling Han and Sheng Anren's flirting in front of everyone. "I think I can talk to the clients after the trip is over. Perhaps the trip will go smoothly, and the clients will be in a good mood. I can't wait." Ling Han rudely interrupted her. "You have to go." Chapter 98. Ling Han's words of "you have to go" destined Yi Huanyan's trip to be extraordinary. Fortunately, Ling Han and Sheng Anren's plane was full. At least they didn't have to look at their faces on the road, which Yi Huanyan felt very gratified. After confirming the flight information again before getting off work, she breathed a sigh of relief, turned off the lights, closed the door, and clocked out. The lights in Ling Han's office were still on. She didn't want to ask for trouble, so she tiptoed away. After she left, the sound of a phone call rang in Ling Han's office. "Confirm Yi Huanyan's flight information. Just change with any artist." After work, Yi Huanyan didn't return to the villa in Jinjiang Court. Ever since that night in Jinjianjuan, Yi Huanyan had dispelled the idea of moving back to live with him. The day before, she came out of the hospital and went straight to Ling Dongming and Jiang Milan's house in Dongqing District. It was said that Ling Dongming bought that house when he married Wen Qingwan. Later, Jiang Milan and Yi Huanyan moved in. In her memory, Jiang Milan mentioned several times that she wanted to change houses, but Ling Dongming refused on the grounds that he was used to living here. Although there were a lot of properties under her name, Jiang Milan couldn't leave her husband and live in another house alone. In the end, she had no choice but to live here. Now that she stepped into the house again, Yi Huanyan felt a little cold all over. After Ling Dongming and Jiang Milan passed away, the house was empty. The aunties who helped cook and clean here were all dismissed, leaving an empty house and a house full of old things that were covered up. After returning from work, Yi Huanyan was a little tired. She turned on the lights in the whole house, then sat on the sofa in the living room wrapped in a blanket. However, when she closed her eyes, her mind was full of nightmares. She woke up many times that night. She always felt that there seemed to be a figure in the corner of the house. Just like that, the night passed in a muddle-headed manner. The next day was clear, destined to be good weather for a trip. Early in the morning, Yi Huanyan was woken up by the sound of the whistle at the door. The person who came was Ling Han's new assistant, Xiaodong. He stood at the door in a suit. When Yi Huanyan saw Xiaodong from the surveillance camera at the door, her expression froze. She hesitated for a moment before opening the door. "Secretary Yi, President Ling asked me to take you to the airport. Come in and have a seat first. I still have some things to pack. Wait for me for a while." "No need, I'll wait at the door." Xiaodong looked a little uneasy. "It's fine. Sit anywhere you like. There's no one else in the house." Yi Huanyan smiled faintly and turned around to grab a pair of slippers at the entrance, looking very courteous. Xiaodong couldn't refuse. He changed into slippers and sat down on the sofa in the living room. "Secretary Yi, your house is so big." Although he could tell that Yi Huanyan's family background was extraordinary from her usual clothes and accessories, this was the first time he saw such a beautiful villa. The retro European-style decoration and the color of the furniture were a little dull, but there was a feeling of a long history. It was very classical and elegant. "It's okay. I'm usually the only one at home, so there's nothing good about it." Yi Huanyan poured a cup of tea and placed it on the coffee table. "I only have plain water here. Do you mind?" "Thank you." Xiaodong quickly got up and thanked her. "You're welcome. I'll go and pack first. Sit for a while. If you're bored, you can walk around." Yi Huanyan was not worried that the new assistant would find anything. This place was remote, and no one in the company knew that this was where Ling Dongming lived. After Ling Dongming and Jiang Milan passed away, this place was cleaned up. Most of the things that belonged to them were sealed in the attic on the 3rd floor. This house was originally going to be sold, but Ling Han didn't sell it. It was probably because he knew about his mother. Xiaodong was a polite and reserved person. Although Yi Huanyan said that he could walk around, he still didn't move. He just sat quietly on the sofa in the living room. This was what he had been taught since he was young. When he went to other people's houses, he shouldn't casually look at other people's things. Yi Huanyan quickly packed up and came out. She wore a simple white sweater, blue jeans, and white sneakers under a gray-blue coat. She looked very fresh. Because the company's group trip was set to be in Bali, the weather there was hot, unlike Lanjiang City, which had entered an extremely cold winter. She put the clothes she would change into on the plane in her bag. Although Dongqing District was located in a remote area, it was very close to Lanjiang Airport. It was only a 15-minute drive. After Xiaodong helped to carry the suitcase, he was in a hurry to rush back to the company. She was the only one left. She took a deep breath and pulled the suitcase to the check-in counter to exchange for a boarding pass. "You're flying to Bali. Do you check your luggage?" "Yes, please give me a seat by the window." "Okay." After getting the boarding pass, she glanced at the time and her expression froze. "Isn't the flight at 10:30? Why is it 10 o'clock now?" The ticket information was correct. She had to carry her bag and rush to the boarding gate. Fortunately, she made it in time. Messier 84. After sitting in her seat, she looked at the information on the boarding pass and frowned. Was it this flight? Why did it feel different from the one she saw last night? Just as she was thinking, she heard a playful voice behind her. It sounded familiar. Her face froze. She slowly turned around and saw 3 people in a row behind her. They were clearly third-rate artists under pleasure. She had been looking for a seat with her head down and didn't notice them at all. Secretary? An artist in the back seat recognized Yi Huanyan with a sharp eye. His face was full of surprise. You're on the same flight as us? Yi Huanyan nodded embarrassedly. She turned around and took out her mobile phone to call the colleague who had helped her book the ticket yesterday. The artist who spoke was called Rui Shui. She could only be regarded as a third-rate artist in the company. She was young and had just signed the contract the year before last. She had met Yi Huanyan a few times. As for the two beside her, they could only be regarded as invisible people. They only played some small supporting roles in TV shows and movies. If they didn't have a chance to become popular, their contracts would not be renewed when they expired. The company never wasted resources on these invisible people. They could only rely on themselves to find ways, such as connecting with some financial backers or getting along better with the first and second sisters in the company. Can I trouble you to take your bag? A cold voice sounded beside her, interrupting Yi Huanyan's action of making a phone call. She was slightly stunned. Following the sound, she looked up and saw a deep three-dimensional face full of exotic charm. It was Guan Nai. Guan Nai was the female star in the company, second only to Sheng Enren. She had the passionate face of a minority ethnic group, but she put on a cold look every day. It was also because of this frosty style that in the hearts of her fans, she had the title of Cold Beauty. This was not the persona the company gave her. She was a very maverick person. It was said that her family was very rich. She came to the entertainment circle just for fun. When she signed Pleasure, it was when Ling Dongming was there. As for her specific situation, probably not many people knew about it except for her agent. At this moment, this cold beauty was looking at her coldly. Chapter 99. I said, take your bag. Guan Nai's voice was very cold. Compared to those sweet female stars, it was a little colder. Yi Huanyan froze and hurriedly took the bag that she had just put next to her. Sorry, I didn't know this was your seat. Her apology didn't get any response from Guan Nai. The famous cold beauty took out an eye mask from her small bag and ignored Yi Huanyan after she sat down. She was embarrassed. The broadcast was playing a reminder that the phone was turned off. She looked at the phone in her hand that she hadn't made yet and turned it off helplessly. Looking around, most of the people sitting in the cabin were familiar faces. Although Yi Huanyan didn't watch TV or movies, it was hard not to remember the faces of the female stars on the bus billboards. Ling Han and Sheng Enren were also among them. Yi Huanyan saw Ling Han sitting 3 rows in front of her at a glance. Sheng Enren was leaning against the window and was acting coquettishly to Ling Han about where to go after arriving in Bali. She frowned and took out a soundproof earpiece from her bag to isolate the outside world. Since she was here, she might as well make the best of it. When she was in a daze, the song in the earpiece ended, and there was no sound. She vaguely heard the whispers of the female artists behind her. Hey, who is this Secretary Yi? Why is she on the same flight as us? She is President Ling's personal secretary. She should be taking care of President Ling's daily life. Rui Shui explained. Among these small artists, she was the only one who knew something about the head office. Taking care of his daily life? Isn't there Sister Enren? Could it be? Who knows? These are all company matters. Sister Enren is much prettier than her. Look at her face without makeup. I'm afraid President Ling won't like her. Most of these artists were not well educated, and their words were not logical. Although she knew that they were just looking for a topic to chat about, Yi Huanyan still felt her stomach churn. She took off the eye mask and covered her mouth to endure. A slender wrist caught her eye, and a bottle of mineral water was handed to her. She looked up and saw Guan Nai's cold face. Her eyes were as deep as 2 pools of spring water. She said faintly, "Can you lend me the earphones for a while? It's too noisy." The scattered voices behind him abruptly stopped. Yi Huanyan was stunned for a few seconds. The bottle of mineral water was already in her hands, and the earphones were already removed from her head. seeing the woman beside him slowly put on the blindfold again, then put on the headphones and continued to sleep calmly. Yi Huanyan felt an inexplicable sense of security. Guan Nai was a mysterious woman with an especially unpredictable personality. Even though Yi Huanyan couldn't tell if her actions were to help her out and interrupt the whispers behind her, or if she just wanted to borrow a pair of earphones because she was annoyed by the noise, Yi Huanyan still let out a sigh of relief. She even smiled at the three people behind her when she got up to go to the bathroom. From the faces of the three people, it could be seen why they were lukewarm. Their acting skills were so bad that the word awkward was written on their faces. She would pass by Ling Han and Sheng Anren on her way to the bathroom, but she was in a hurry. She guessed that Ling Han probably didn't notice her. She washed her face in the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She went out in a hurry in the morning and didn't put on makeup. In addition, she didn't sleep well last night. The 2 dark circles under her eyes were particularly obvious. The 3 people were right. How could she compare to Sheng Anren, who was always radiant? There was a knock on the door. She had been waiting inside for too long, and someone outside was anxious. After taking a deep breath, she pressed the flush button of the toilet, then pulled the safety latch and looked at the person at the door apologetically. "Sorry, I'm not very." Looking into the person's eyes, the words that she had yet to finish were stuck in her throat. "President Ling." "What's the matter?" he asked. Just now, when she passed by, Sheng Anren suddenly said, "Isn't that Secretary Yi? You don't look well. What's the matter?" These words reminded him of her hospitalization during this period of time. After returning to the company, she had been busy with a group trip plan. Yesterday, she told him that she was not feeling well and did not want to participate in this trip. His heart suddenly tightened. He left Sheng Anren and followed her to the bathroom. He did not notice the sudden change of Sheng Anren's face behind him. "What's the matter?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. "You don't look well. Are you not feeling well?" Ling Han's inexplicable concern made her have an illusion that she shouldn't have. She touched her face and avoided his eyes. "It's nothing. I just didn't sleep well last night. Thank you for your concern." Ling Han was a little displeased with Yi Huanyan's cold tone and asked coldly, "How are you living there these 2 days?" "It's very good." Yi Huanyan looked over Ling Han's shoulder and looked at the curtain of the cabin. Through the gap, she seemed to see Sheng Anren walking towards her. Her heart sank. "President Ling, if there's nothing else, I'll go first." She was so busy looking at Sheng Anren that she didn't notice that Ling Han's face was gloomy to the extreme. When she was about to walk away from him, he suddenly grabbed her shoulder and pushed her into the narrow bathroom. With a click, he locked the bathroom door from the inside. Yi Huanyan stared at him. "What are you doing? Look into my eyes when you talk to me." The cold tone froze the narrow bathroom, and there was a faint anger in his eyes. Yi Huanyan didn't know why he was angry. She thought that she hadn't done anything to make him angry since last night. "What did I do wrong? Tell me clearly." Her eyes were red, and she gritted her teeth with a stubborn look. She was a person who wanted to die, clearly. However, she did not know that Ling Han had been angered by her submissive attitude these past few days. Whether it was asking her to make a few cups of coffee at work, being picky about the temperature and sweetness of the coffee, or making her work late into the night, she seemed to have no temper and was at his disposal. What made Ling Han feel most uncomfortable was that after returning home from work every day, the house was suddenly cold and cheerless. It was just one less person. When Yi Huanyan was here, she didn't talk much. There should be no difference between her and not her. But he began to lose sleep again. After arriving in Bali by the earliest flight back home, "I hope I'll never see you again when I go back on vacation." Ling Han tried his best to make his voice sound calm, but the fingers that were holding her shoulders were trembling. "You want me to quit? I've completed the travel plan. I won't leave." Yi Huanyan frowned and looked stubborn. "Yi Huanyan, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Chapter 100. Didn't you say that I owe you? I'll stay. How much do I owe you? I'll leave after I pay it all. You don't pay it all. How do you know if you don't try? Yi Huanyan bit her lip, almost bleeding. There was a knock on the door. Han, are you in there? It was Sheng Anren's voice. Yi Huanyan stared at Ling Han with wide eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a sarcastic expression. He leaned over to Yi Huanyan's ear and exhaled softly. Do you want to try? Her back slammed into the mirror of the washstand, and she felt a sudden chill under her long skirt not long after. Her clothes were scattered, and the brown plaid long skirt was violently lifted up to her lower abdomen by a pair of hands. Her snow-white slender leg was lifted high by a big hand, and his knee separated her other leg hanging by the sink. It was a very shameful position, and without any warning, he fiercely entered. She groaned and bit the back of her hand. In pain, she turned her head with difficulty and pressed the side of her face against the mirror, trying to feel the coldness of the mirror, trying to keep herself awake. Ling Han's eyes were red. He held her legs and stared into her eyes. His eyes seemed to be full of the pleasure of revenge. The sarcasm at the corner of his mouth seemed to be ridiculing her for walking into a trap and abandoning herself. The sound of Sheng Anren knocking on the door seemed to have a rhythm. It mixed with the impact in the bathroom and severely ravaged her nerves. She covered her mouth with one hand and endured wave after wave of crazy impact under her body. She didn't know how long Sheng Anren knocked, but finally gave up. The sound of high heels at the door gradually faded away, probably to the other side of the cabin. Yi Huanyan put down her hand and couldn't help but let out a painful groan. Ling Han stared into her eyes and increased the frequency. A strange look flashed across his face. After the final thrust, Ling Han withdrew from her body. A scorching heat quickly spread from the lower half of her body to the rest of her body. Her toes and fingers curled together at the same time, and a hoarse sound came from her throat. Her whole body twitched for a few seconds before she sat paralyzed on the washstand with a flushed face. The man loosened his grip on her shoulders, and beads of sweat formed on his forehead. His breathing was heavy, and it was obvious in the small bathroom. He lowered his voice and whispered into Yi Huanyan's ear. Don't you want to repay your debt? I'll satisfy you. At this time, the flush on Yi Huanyan's face had receded and was replaced by a sheet of white. Cold sweat trickled down from her forehead. Her lips had been bitten and were bleeding, but her eyes were filled with shame and anger. Ling Han let go of her body, leaned against the door, lit a cigarette, and sneered. Consider this my last gift to you. Consider it a warning. Leave as soon as the plane lands. This is your last chance. He sized up Yi Huanyan's body, and his eyes were cold. You want to repay your debt? What else do you think you have other than this body that I'm tired of playing with? Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and struggled to get off the washstand. Her legs trembled, and she barely managed to steady herself by holding onto the washstand. She took a deep breath and tried to make her voice sound calm. Have you enjoyed yourself, President Ling? Hearing that, Ling Han's eyes flashed with astonishment. If you don't say anything, I'll take it that you've enjoyed yourself. She lifted her underwear from her ankles. Although she was in a mess, she moved slowly. Then, with her back facing Ling Han, she turned to the mirror and tidied her clothes meticulously. Ling Han's face stiffened. He put out the cigarette and slammed the door without looking back. I've given you a chance, but you don't want it. Don't regret it in the future. When I let you go, you should go. After Ling Han left, Yi Huanyan put her hands on the washstand and her tears fell into the sink. Physical pain, mental torture, self-esteem trampling. I'll give you all these. I'll give you everything you want. Is that enough? When Yi Huanyan returned to her seat, her face was as calm as usual. After half a year of being Ling Han's secret lover, she had already familiarized herself with the two roles. In front of everyone, she would always be Secretary Yi and would not have anything to do with Ling Han's private life. When she sat down, she felt the pain in her lower body and took a deep breath. Guan Nai, who had just taken off her eye mask and touched up her makeup, frowned slightly. She took in her expression and put the earphones beside her. I'll return the earphones to you. Thank you. Yi Huanyan nodded weakly. She leaned against the seat and closed her eyes drowsily. Guan Nai finished her eyeliner in front of the makeup mirror. She turned her head and glanced at Yi Huanyan, who was holding her arms and trembling. She frowned slightly and turned to call the stewardess. Can I trouble you to bring another blanket over? Okay. When Sheng Anren came out of the front cabin, she saw that Ling Han had returned to his seat. So did Yi Huanyan. The bathroom door that was closed just now was open, and there were several water stains on the washstand. She returned to her seat and hesitated for a moment. Han, where did you go just now? I couldn't find you. Bathroom. He answered casually. Sheng Anren pursed her lips. I knocked on the bathroom door, but no one seemed to respond. Maybe he didn't hear it. Ling Han seemed a little impatient and closed his eyes. She frowned and slowly turned around. Her eyes fell on the weak figure behind the third row, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. It turned out that the little goblin she had been looking for so long was hiding beside Ling Han. Secretary, you was really hiding. She dared to snatch people from Sheng Anren, but she would not have a good end. Guan Nai, who was sitting beside Yi Huanyan, just put away the makeup mirror. She followed Sheng Anren's gaze and glanced at Yi Huanyan. There was a trace of hesitation in her eyes. The direct flight from Lanjiang City to Bali took 8 hours. They set off in the morning and had lunch in the restaurant on the plane. Yi Huanyan was not feeling well and had been sleeping. She was not in the mood to eat at all. In the restaurant, the space was spacious. There were 4 people at a table. Ling Han was not in the mood. He left from the dining car after eating 2 mouthfuls. Sheng Anren hesitated for a while and did not catch up with him. Anran, haven't you always been wherever President Ling is? President Ling has already gone back, and you're busy losing weight and not eating. Why are you sitting here with us? Sitting with Sheng Anren were several artists with higher positions in the company. They usually made fun of each other. At the moment, it was very ironic in Sheng Anren's ears. Her eyes were a little unfocused. Suddenly, she picked up the juice in her hand, left the table without looking back, and walked toward the corner. Sitting in the corner were the 3 artists who had been sitting behind Yi Huanyan. At the moment, they were discussing the vacation in Bali in full swing. Is this seat taken, Sister Anren? Several people were surprised to see Sheng Anren coming over. No one, please sit down. Sheng Anren had always been high and mighty in the company. Generally, she did not easily have contact with third-tier artists like them. Where did the wind blow her here? Chapter 101. I don't have anything to do. Director Lee came to me for a movie before. There are several roles in it that haven't been decided yet. He asked me if I had any suitable candidates to recommend. I think the fat water doesn't flow into the field of outsiders. It must be someone from the recommendation company. I don't usually see you. Today, when I saw you on the plane, I think you are very suitable. Sheng Anren's tone was very kind, which was completely different from the descriptions circulating among the company's artists. Rui Shui's eyes widened. You mean Li Quan, Director Li's movie? Well, I know that I suddenly told you this. Maybe I have to pick a time? You can think about it and then reply to me. No, we have time. That's right. How many people want to be in Director Li's movie? Such a good opportunity. Sister Anren, why do you take care of us so much? Thank you so much. The 3 people at the table looked at Sheng Anren with almost grateful eyes. If this movie can really let us play, God, it's incredible. Sheng Anren smiled slightly. It's nothing. It's just a little effort. If Director Li likes you, there will be many film contracts in the future. Among the 3 people, Rui Shui had more experience in filming. In addition to being surprised, she faintly felt that such a thing as a pie falling from the sky was unlikely to happen to her. She asked a little hesitantly, Sister Anren, How did you think of recommending us to director Lee's movie? After all, there were many female artists in the same studio as Shang Anren. For the sake of long-term interests, it was natural for her to support her younger generation. How could such a good opportunity be given to three unknown, little transparent people? After all, we are all in the same company. If the company develops well, President Ling will naturally be happy. This is also my duty. When it came to President Ling, the three people looked at each other and smiled at the same time. Rui Shui was also a little relieved. Zhao Bingqing, who was sitting beside Xing Anren, smiled flatteringly. That's natural. We all know your relationship with President Ling. Sooner or later, you will be the boss of the company. Yes, that's a position that many people dream of. Lin Jie, who was beside Rui Shui, echoed. She had never been very good at looking at people's faces, and what she said was always inappropriate. Ahem. Rui Shui coughed twice, reminding her to shut up. Wasn't it obvious that he was coveting the boss in front of Shang Anren? Was he looking for death? She didn't know if Shang Anren heard it, but her expression changed slightly, and she smiled. It's not easy to be the lady boss. There are so many young and beautiful girls watching. If you don't pay attention, your position will be taken by others. Rui Shui thought that Lin Jie had understood the meaning behind Lin Jie's words. She was afraid that if Lin Jie was unhappy, the meat pie that had fallen with great difficulty would fly away from her mouth. Speaking of youth and beauty, who can compare to you by President Ling's side? Don't worry too much. The two people beside him quickly followed suit. Shang Anren looked at them meaningfully, and a contemptuous smile flashed in his eyes. Sometimes, the more inconspicuous a person is, the more he has big ideas and ambitions. I didn't see it before. The three of them looked at each other, not understanding the meaning of Shang Anren's words. I just saw Secretary Yi on the same plane as us. It's really strange. I heard that she was supposed to take over Assistant Xiao's job and stay in the company. Shang Anren casually stretched out her hand and looked at her newly done nails. Men are usually animals who think with their lower bodies. Who will refuse someone who throws himself at them? It's just that some people don't know themselves. What do you think? Rui Shui's face changed slightly, and she exchanged a look with Lin Jie beside her. Sister Anren, you mean Secretary Yi? Shang Anren sneered. I can't rub sand in my eyes. If anyone has any improper thoughts about my things, I will do whatever it takes to make her understand what regret is. Lin Jie was timid. She pulled Rui Shui's sleeve under the table with a panicked look. Zhao Bingqing rolled his eyes and glanced at Rui Shui. Sister Anren, we don't have much interaction with Secretary Yi. In fact, we just met on the plane. Only Xiao Xue seems to have seen Secretary Yi before. Oh, Shang Anren raised his head and looked at Rui Shui. Do you know each other? Rui Shui's face stiffened, and she glared at Zhao Bingqing fiercely. She thought about it for a while and said embarrassedly, I don't know her. In fact, I don't like Secretary Yi's noble appearance. She's just a secretary. She acts like she's a daughter of a big family. That's right, looking at Shang Anren's satisfied look, Rui Shui suddenly had an idea and hesitated. Sister Anren, in fact, you don't need to do this kind of thing. If we do it a little, I'm afraid her trip to Bali will not be easy. Isn't that bad? Shang Anren looked indifferent, but there was some satisfaction in his tone. Rui Shui raised her eyebrows and flattered. It has nothing to do with Sister Anren. We don't like Secretary Yi's style. We teach her a lesson and teach her to be a good person at work. Then I'll contact Director Lee when I get off the plane and ask him how many roles he needs. Hearing this, the three looked at each other. If they still couldn't figure out the purpose of Shang Anren's visit, they had been in the entertainment industry for so long in vain. Killing with a borrowed knife. Shang Anren really lived up to her reputation. She smiled slightly, stood up, lifted the corner of her skirt, and left the restaurant. The three people looked at each other, each with ulterior motives. What are you thinking? Lin Jie frowned and looked timid. Sheng Anren is going to use us as guns. It was Zhao Bingqing who spoke. She seemed a little unhappy and glanced at Rui Shui. Xiao Xue, you dare to promise her? Rui Shui frowned and said in an unkind tone, Zhao Bingqing, shut up. If you didn't say that I knew Secretary Yi, would I be targeted by her? You almost got me killed. I didn't do it on purpose. Zhao Bingqing was a little guilty. It was undeniable that she did it on purpose. In fact, she had seen that Sheng Anren was not kind. If they wanted to mix in, they could only rely on their support. If they didn't run errands to help, why would they support them? Now that things have come to this, don't you want to play Director Li's film? It's just a little trick to let the secretary suffer a little. Sheng Anren just wanted to give her a warning and let her stay away from President Ling. She didn't know herself and dared to have thoughts about President Ling. What do you want to do? Seeing Zhao Bingqing take out a transparent eye-drop bottle from her bag, Rui Shui and Lin Jie were slightly stunned. You want to? A trace of insidiousness flashed in Zhao Bingqing's eyes. Sister Anren just said that the quota is limited. Sisters, let's rely on our own ability. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.